Yeah, we started without you.
Couple clerks. Yeah.
It's your new cologne.
Yep.
Dab a little behind your ears.
If I could go back into old business before you guys start the budget, we've had quite a few people that are needing COVID time again, and we had actually stopped COVID because, you know, the federal government did not extend it. You guys extended it for that 1 month, and we never really heard too much from any other employees. But this pay period it's piping back up, unfortunately, for our employees. So we would like to know if you want to extend that, or if you want them to use their time. That is vacation or sick. Sick first, of course.
I'm fine with renewing it.
I would renew it, extend it, because, you know, I don't know what this new strain is, but
These are first-time users, right?
That's what I was gonna say, under the same conditions as before, if they had not used it before, any portion of the 80 that was remaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably gonna come up a little bit again with the winter coming around.
And then, do you want to go retroactive back to November 1st for anybody in that first payroll that had COVID, that had to use time, or we want to reinstate the time?
So can we keep this going until we decide to terminate it? Then we don't have to do it retroactive? Because somehow we always end up coming back late, but I'm fine retroactive.
What if we reinstituted it retroactively back to the 1st of November and then run it through December 31?
yeah.
And then mark our calendars to get ahead of the last meeting in December to determine whether we'll extend it into the new year.
Yeah.
It is becoming, unfortunately for some people, repeat issues, you know, but we'll stop it and go by the regular rules, 1 time, the 80.
Okay. So my motion would be to reinstate it retroactive to November 1 through December 31 and reevaluate prior to the end of this year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, you ready?
ready.
So we're gonna start with Road and Bridge at page 93 in the book, if you're following along there, and I will try to pull it up on the screen as well.
So, Commissioners, I sent you an email last night that had several documents. One being kind of just a presentation if you want to kind of follow along with things we're going to talk about today. Appreciate the opportunity to be here to discuss our budget. The past year was a big year for us, coming out of some key retirements at the end of last year and basically brand new coming into this. When we presented our budget last year, we were barely a month in. Brian wasn't even a month, so it was a little different back then. Now that we got a full year under our belt, we feel like we're in a lot better position to discuss these things and make presentations for things we want to do moving forward. We had a good year in 2021. Started with trying to make a commitment to our employees to make it the best experience for them when they come to Public Works, make it enjoyable and rewarding. Really kind of leaned on our employees, giving them some ability to make some decisions on their own and kind of put a lot in their court as far as how their days go, as far as the work that they do, and the crew supervisors managing the day-to-day operations, and we're just kind of looking big picture for month to month. So a lot of changes in that regard, and staff seem to be taking well to that new direction. We made several key equipment purchases, upwards of $500,000, $600,000. The paver was big, a big improvement. The new paver, we ran almost 2,700 tons of asphalt through it, worth $155,000. That's a big deal for us to do that. New crew cab supervisor trucks was a big improvement for our crews, in which they can run these year-round and don't have to deal with taking snow equipment off on the other trucks that they were using. So that was a big improvement. The tandem dump trucks, we got our second one a couple weeks ago. That was a big deal as well. Cartograph was important. We're still in the process of implementing that. That'll be an ongoing process over the next few years just to fully get that up to speed. Just a big deal for us. It's helped our road crews manage their work and manage what their employees are doing and keep track of things. Our fleet, as our mechanic team has been doing a great job managing our fleet, partly through Cartograph and the asset management program through it. The new hoist allowed them to change that. We've done 2 truck beds with it. I think I sent you a picture on that not too long ago on what they've done, and that's been very helpful as well. Done a lot of pavement preparation work on our chip seals and overlays, which allowed those to be done on time and not run into the fall. And I think that's the first year in a while that we've had all that ready in time. So another big project that we want to mention, and I think I've mentioned in the past, is Osage City. We completely redid that whole city, streets, ditches, driveway pipes, roadside improvements as well. So that was a big thing. And I think the citizens down there appreciate it, and we look to do more of that in the future. Great case study showing what our crews can do when given the proper equipment in the right direction. A couple key things to look for in 2022. Pavement management's going to be a key item to watch. Cartograph has a built-in system for us to manage what we do on our pavements and picking the right time and the right pavement to do it on. That will be a big thing as we move forward with it. And just general Cartograph implementation, I mentioned a little bit ago, it's going to be a process to get that fully up to speed. We really just have 7-8 months under our belt with that, so that's going to take time to build that complete system. Equipment upgrades are going to be a key component. There's some items that we submitted in our budgets, and then in working with the auditor, there's some extra money that could be surplus to go towards additional equipment, and we will talk about that later. Facility improvements are badly needed in our department. Our 2 satellite sheds, Brazito and Centertown. We want to make an improvement to add a break room and bathroom in those facilities that currently don't have that. We have 2 or 3, maybe 4 trucks that run out of Centertown during the winter, and they load salt out of that facility, and there's no place to use the restroom. There's a porta potty, but that's all we got, and it's outside, and there's no break room to get in there and get warmed up. So those improvements, and then we also have things we'd like to do in our actual Monticello facility. We're way out of space for office space, and we need to make some changes there. Material cost increases are going to be an issue for us. We're seeing that, especially with pipe increasing quite a bit. And really just any materials we use for road maintenance are going to be going up or have gone up. And so part of what we want to discuss with some changes in the budget is making sure we're adequately funding those line items as maybe a 1-year temporary thing to see where that's going to go. And then like we did in Osage City, next year we're going to do the streets in Eugene, the same type of improvement. The big thing we've worked on, and honestly this, coming into it new, I supervise 3 employees, now going to supervising a whole department. Our investment in our employees is a lot bigger thing, and I underestimated how important that was going to be to us. We spent a lot of time working on that over the past year. We've developed a career path progression plan. I've included a draft of that, and what we're looking at for new employees and then current employees is to have a plan where they can progress through the department. If they want to improve and move up, there's an opportunity for them. So that's part of our plan, and that'll be part of our salary plan as well. And then expansion of CART funding with the legislature, Senate bill, the numbers escape me, but it was the gas tax, the passage of the extension or the increase in the gas tax for the state. We're going to see about $200,000 per year, increasing that much over the next 5 years. Kristen, I don't know if that number's 100% correct, and that remains to be seen exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be an increase we're going to see each year.
And MAC did send out some updated numbers from their end. They are slightly lower than what we've estimated, so that one's kind of seeing what that first increase is going to be like, and then it will increase by that same 2.5 cents, I think, over the next 5 years. So we see a portion of our funding increase because it's based on our percentage of roads in the county, is how that calculation comes down of the gas tax to us.
So that'll be an increase in our revenues coming in. Back about 20 years ago or so, we began paying the city and villages 25% of the road and bridge property tax collected within their boundary. And when that happened, we started shifting our pavement prep work and our overlay work over to the capital improvement sales tax. With this additional money coming back in or coming in from the gas tax, we'd like to, over time, start shifting some of that work back to the road and bridge side, which would free up the capital improvements, sales tax to do more, system improvements, safety improvements and whatnot. So that we'll just kind of watch that over the next few years and see where things go on the funding side of that. And then as more work, as the money starts coming in to do more work and as things progress, we may need to look at additional employees over time, depending on what the work levels become. But for now, this increase, we're basically just using it as a way to kind of get our budgets to balance, so our carry forward matches our contingency a lot closer than in previous years. And that's something we've worked on with the auditor substantially over the last few years, and especially this year. The auditor has said that there is a potential surplus of roughly to $750,000. That numbers could fluctuate a little bit depending on where we end at the end of the year. But there are some items that she's said that these would be one-time purchases or one-time increases in budget line items to account for that. And we'd like to look at a mini excavator and a trailer for it, a hydro seeder. We do have a pickup truck in our equipment budget for this year, but there's a concern, and actually not a concern, it's real. We underestimated because we won't be able to buy any state contract vehicles or at state contract price, so we'd like to up that amount to account for what we think that's going to cost. Mentioned a little bit ago about making some renovations to our office at Monticello. We think we need to increase that amount. Biodiesel tank grant match, which I talked about last week. There's a water line relocation we need to do at our shop. And then budget adjustments for concrete, asphalt, pipe, and road materials. And then a wish list. And this might come a little bit towards the end, or maybe as we look at things long-term, what we want to do with the facility, maybe it gets pushed off into future years. But we need to look at long-term what our facility is going to be. I'd like to do a feasibility study for facility master planning for the whole complex at Monticello. What could come after that is paving of the parking lot, a wash bay, and then truck parking under roof. Currently we have a lot of trucks and equipment that sit outside. That's the worst thing for those vehicles and that equipment over time. So if we could get that under roof, that would be a big improvement. So that's in a nutshell kind of where we started and what we did last year and what we got looking into the future for the next year. And then we'll go through line by line items that we'd like to discuss and maybe reconsider on some amounts. So we want to kind of follow along there. We'll start with 211, Road and Bridge. So 51001.000 salaries. We submitted $1,788,426. That included a 2% COLA and some merit or career path increases for some employees. The auditor's recommendation was 4% COLA across the board and no merit or career path. One thing that we did submit originally was with our assistant road superintendent retiring tomorrow, with his salary, what it was, we were proposing to add 2 new employees to replace him, and that would be 1 additional employee for Public Works. And that would get us back to full staffing levels. When we went through all the transition, the way it all shook out, we actually lost 1 road and bridge employee or maintenance employee over to the engineering department this year. So we're technically down 1, but as we've discussed, and I'll talk about it later with the development and fully funding of the Parks Department and dedicated employee paid by Parks, that would free up 1 position that we're actually using out of Road and Bridge to take care of the parks. And so we think that we can maintain what we're doing now and not add that additional employee to replace the assistant road superintendent. So we would just replace him with 1 employee, not 2, keep our staffing levels as they are. And in turn, we would like to look at doing some career path promotions or salary increases and some merit increases in addition to the 4% COLA recommended by the auditor. So the attached spreadsheet shows where we're at on that, and apologize for the color coding, but if you look at 211 Road and Bridge, the yellow would be the changes we would make. and that would be an adjustment of about 19,000. And so in the end, it would actually be fairly close to what we originally submitted dollar-wise, and we would stay at our current staffing level. So that's what we would like to propose as far as a change to the salary line item. Do you have any questions about that? Some of these get in particular with certain people, and I don't know that we can discuss that necessarily, but
I think if you want to do that, we can close if you're talking about specific employees' performance.
Are you talking about position or are you talking about people?
a little bit of both. Some
'Cause
people,
then it's more or less a merit raise at that point.
they're merit raises, but they're partially or mostly based on our career path plan.
So I see those as two different things. Career path would be the position, and then the merit would more or less be the person, but,
There's a little bit of both, Jeff.
okay.
And I could explain, and we could get into the details on each one.
Well, I think I see
Separately, but
where
not-
you're heading with it and such, but,
Our biggest investment, as far as everything that we do, needs to be in our employees. When you look at the total amount of our budget that goes towards employees compared to the overall, it's a pretty significant percentage, and that's our biggest asset. We need to make sure that we're taking care of them and being able to retain them. The way the industry is going, there's a lot of competition for these types of jobs, especially in the construction industry. They're paying significantly more than we are, but we have an appeal to people. The benefits are good, and people like the set hours, and so we have that niche. I think we found. Some people like doing the work and want to have side jobs or have a farm on the side. So I think we have a pretty good niche there with our employees and the positions they're in. We just need to make sure we're doing the right thing to be able to retain them and then attract new employees, which we do have one opening right now to replace Greg in his retirement.
And we kind of leave salaries till the end. I mean, it's nice to have him here. If you guys have questions or things you want to talk about, we can always call him back too, but we usually try to wait until we've made all the other changes to talk about salaries at the end.
When it came down to discussing whether we wanted to add another employee or try to promote or work on the career path from within and with our current staff, we felt that was much more important. So, especially given the fact that with the proposal with the Parks Department, we think we can free up a lot of that position on the road and bridge side to be able to work on road and bridge items instead of parks. So that helps too a lot.
Yes.
So I can move forward if we're okay. So we'll move down to 52283, professional services. We submitted 57,740. In working with the auditor, that was reduced down to 34,418. Most of that is, actually 25,000 of that, we're creating a new line item for contracted safety improvement services, which is primarily tree removal, guardrail, the on-call contract we did with that. And we're also looking at a deer removal service, which we think would be beneficial to us and more cost effective. So those types of roadside safety improvements would come out of that. There was fire extinguisher servicing that was dropped down by 50, and then but left in the DTN weather satellite service, which we've gotten rid of since. So our recommendation would be 32,690 for that.
32,690.
32,690. That keeps 50 for fire extinguisher, but eliminates the DTN weather satellite service because we've gotten rid of that.
So you guys can see up on the screen is.
No, we can't.
Well, you can look later too. So we do in the budget go through and itemize those contracts and list here. So I will try to get Eric's numbers updated and the commission approved so that
The 32 The 32,690 that was just mentioned replaces what item on the budget?
It's the total number at the bottom.
So yeah, I had
Under
the 30
professional services?
Yes, I had the 34,418. He's actually going down to 32,690.
That's
Okay.
dropping the DTN, because I think it was right at $1,900.
Yeah.
This
Or seven.
Or
1728,
Yeah.
that second item there.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that
I
helpful
can't
or
see
not?
that far
Yeah,
either.
we'll have to have this on.
You'd rather not?
I'm gonna
That-
close this for a
That's
minute.
better.
I did not copy everything over.
So again, 25,000 of this would go into a new line item for safety, safety improvements is what we labeled it. So most of it's moving a little bit of money around, but then ultimately it's dropping down our total because we got rid of the satellite service that we no longer use.
So 25,000 is going to professional,
Um,
or to safety improvement.
Yeah, it's down towards the end.
That's the last one.
It's actually 54,929, safety improvements. And what that is, guardrail, when guardrail gets hit, we have to hire a company to come in and replace it. And tree removal, which they can be variable numbers. When we get a big enough tree, it's unsafe for our employees to take it down. We need to hire a professional to do that.
So kind of the reasoning behind that was usually in professional services, it's something we have a contract for, and it's a standing contract that usually from year to year, we're contracting for a certain professional service. We felt like the tree removal and the guardrail was a variable cost that could change from year to year. So we wanted to pull that out into its own line and give them the flexibility to play with that number a little bit and do what was needed during the year. So that's why we created that separate safety improvement line.
So we just moved money around on that one, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll kind of build that history of what we use that safety improvement line for and build out those notes behind it as we go.
I'd say it's gonna be a big, guardrail's gonna be a big one, but we get reimbursed for that.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
If we got an accident report on it.
And that may lead to, you know, a revenue line to kind of call the same thing so we can see that offset going forward.
Any further questions on that? Okay, move down to radios, 53213.004. We submitted $1,610. That was decreased by $300. Our number of 1610 includes the needed number of radios and new or radio replacements and additions for 22, and we'd like to keep it at 1610.
What's the difference between radios and radio replacements? You got two lines there.
Yeah, so radios there, Eric, is just your tower rental, and then minor repairs is what's
Minor
in that
repairs
line.
to
Yep.
the- yeah,
The one below it is actually for your radio replacements,
okay.
and it's to purchase new radios, and it's 1,500.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong one, so
So the change there in radios itself was, we had 800 for minor radio repairs, and I took it to 500.
Okay.
And that was mainly just based on history, because we haven't had any lately.
don't look at my number here. So my apology on the replacement, but on the repairs. Like I said, it was 800 was for repairs and it was reduced to 500. I think it's just an approximation that we got from our mechanic on what needed to be looked at or repaired. So we could probably stick with 500 on that and just see where it comes in at. So Brian, do you have any comments on that?
No, I think one of the things that we had discussed too was is that if we do get the mini excavator, the new mini excavator approved, that we would have a two-way radio for that, so there would be an expense.
That would be,
That in the price
that would
of
be the
this
next one down.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be in radio replacement.
so, but I think you had them combined here, didn't you?
I think I was assuming they were combined, so.
Yeah.
My apologies on that. We will just stick with what was recommended by the auditor on that line item. Moving down to Internet 53213.001, we submitted 13,511. That was reduced to 12,916, and we had planned to add 2 more tablets next year, and with that, requires that to have the internet service, and so that was the reason for the number that we submitted.
Is that the 2 hotspots, or is that,
One's a hotspot. The 2 tablets would be for Matt's, the engineering technicians, to do the pavement ratings and cartograph that we discussed earlier.
No, it's .011.
.001.
011.
no, 11?
Did I label that wrong?
001 is your telephones.
Yeah, I couldn't find
011
it for a
is
second.
internet.
Zero 11.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we're adding 2 more tablets is what,
Adding of the 2 tablets was the reason why we would want to bring it to that number.
It's adding the tablets and then adding the 2 extra cartograph licenses. I do believe.
I think it's the license too.
Yeah.
You're putting the cartograph licenses in internet?
Let's pull up that number here.
So we currently have 15 tablets.
Yes.
We're going to 17.
Correct. And then if cartograph's listed separately, but we went from 15 licenses. It's kind of a block, you have to buy it in blocks. So it went up to 20, which I think he has it here in a second.
I believe it's the 2 hotspots was what it was. The internet service for that. That doesn't even equal that.
So we had an extra $1,000 for 2 additional hotspots, but you're talking about 2 more tablets beyond the 2 hotspots?
I believe it was that, yeah. Because we had in our computers.
If you just want to check on that
We'll-
one.
we'll
and
double
give
check
us-
on that,
Give
yeah.
us a heads up. I have the note in there, but we'll.
They're
work
minor
with-
amount differences, so. Going down to meetings, 53264.001. We spent a lot of time trying to do the best we can to come up with what our expenses are gonna be in meetings for next year. 2 reasons why it's higher than it was previously is with myself, Brian, and Matt being in leadership with national associations, there's conferences and meetings that we're required to go to. I think that's a benefit overall to our department for us to be in those positions and be leaders in the state organizations. And then another item that's probably more important is our career path progression plan, which includes a training component to that through LTAP. And as we promote employees, we'll have them certified as a level 1 scholar and a level 2 as they promote on up. And so part of the additional was for training requirements through that.
okay, so we got 53265.
001 is the one
Yeah.
he's talking about.
Yeah.
And we submitted 22,190. Auditor's recommendation was 20,962. And we would recommend keeping it at the number that we submitted.
So are your meetings going up though? I mean, I think with all the Zoom and whatever, that stuff would kind of be going down.
We're pretty much back to full in-person meetings now. I think at least everything that we're doing, everything's in person again. We would envision as we work through our career path plan for our employees that we'll keep on adding more training components to this. And that's always come out of meetings. I think at one time it may have been split out into different,
You don't have a training line?
no, it's all rolled into meetings. Meetings also includes various meals that we do for meetings where we bring the public in or have training items as well. So there's a lot rolled into that. And everything right there lists out what we got planned for next year. Also includes training for our mechanics. So. We would recommend keeping it at 22,190.
I'm making notes and we'll come back and go through them individually later.
Any further questions on that?
No.
Okay. The next was water, and submitted 1,380. That was reduced to 850. In 2020, we used $1,909, with most of that coming in December, and we request that we just leave it at 1,380.
So Eric, there was a very strange bill there in December
Yeah.
of that 2020 that looked very out of place as far as the rest of your year.
That is correct, and
So that's the difference,
Mhm.
is we estimated based on actual usage for the previous 12 months, and that threw that December kind of off of there, and
our, this used to be a lot higher. When we got rid of the wash bay, that significantly dropped it. As we're gonna talk about later, looking at a possible installation of a new wash bay, this number could be totally changed towards the end of the year. It just depends on where that goes.
well, so I will show you all, we kind of do a utility spreadsheet for all the buildings and all of the things where we have different ways that we estimate what those bills are and where they will be. So we do try to project those as close as we can. But like I said, that estimate threw that 990 bill out of, like, it took the high and the low and threw them out and estimated otherwise. So that's how we got to our number and why it was different.
And honestly, when we're talking about these small differences, water, we're gonna have to use what we use. So
Yeah.
if it turns out towards the end of the year, we're short on our budget, we'll just have to ask for an adjustment on that. So we can go either way on that.
But your recommendation would be to go back to the 1380.
Leave it at what we submitted. Carrie Hale does a good job at trying to project where things are gonna be with those types of items, and kind of leaned on her for that number. So going to road materials, 53294, we submitted 275,000, and that was agreed to by the auditor. However, as I mentioned prior, with material increases, we've got an indication that those are going up from the quarries here in town. And with our projected surplus that we've been working with the auditor on, we would like to do a 1-year expansion of this to 300,000 to account for the additional price increases. Also, with all these material type items that we use for our maintenance work, we're looking at doing more and more work going over the next year and into future years. So I think we'll just have to watch those numbers pretty close to see, are we coming in short? Do we need to appropriate more money each year for that as we go through our, cartograph and asset management and everything with the prep work that we're doing. So we would recommend taking that to 300,000 just as a 1-year trial to see what these price increases do.
So just a quick kind of overview. Quite a few years ago, we had someone do kind of a reserve plan for the county. Road and Bridges reserve projection is somewhere between 2 million and 2.5 is kind of where we want to be with their reserve number. And this year, I think we're closer to like 2.982. So I've been working with Eric and trying to figure out what those one-time costs are that we could increase in their budget to spin down their reserves back to that level. So that's where his extra items are coming from, is what can you do to spin that down, and what would be one-time costs if we don't see that reserve continue to grow that we could cut back out in next year's budget.
Can we
So-
put that in a different line that we pull out of instead of like a contingency, but spin down line or whatever you wanna call it? Because, I mean, I think it's gonna be misleading in the budget to be, just cause of the increase in costs. If we don't have the money, you're just gonna have to not do as much.
Well, so in the past,
So-
it's mainly gone into a capital improvement line, so you can see that in those 5-4 accounts, is the ones that you would see
Okay.
jump. This year's gonna be a little
So-
different with the extra road projects. Their materials cost is what they're wanting to bump, so normally you can see it fairly clearly in those 5-4
Okay.
accounts, but this year's a little different with materials, just because they have more projects and they want more materials than they do equipment. But they can also cut that back out by reducing their list of projects the following year if they need to.
So
reduce
instead
that
of getting
number
stuff
back
off
down.
of his wish list, they're gonna put it in some of these other materials, and
Right,
it's a good idea anyway, I think, so. Okay, that explains it, thanks.
List them within the details of that account, so we can see next year that maybe we could take that out.
right, so as we add them, we can add them in the notes and put, spin down of reserves and for road materials, so we know next year when we go in, you can see that listed separately.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have more money coming in, but bottom line is it all costs more too, so we're not gonna get anything more for what we're getting.
We're spending more money but doing the same amount of work, more or less, just because everything's costing a lot
Yep.
more. Yep. Any further questions? Okay, we'll go to gas and propane, 53298.003. We submitted $8,000. This was reduced to $5,800. We're concerned with the prospect of higher propane costs this winter, and we'd like to keep it at $8,000.
Did we lock in some numbers on propane a meeting or two ago?
Wasn't propane, it was natural gas.
Natural gas, I'm sorry, okay.
I think we may have purchased in bulk propane.
Whenever they need to fill it up, they go checking prices then.
Just like with regular fuel.
That reserve may get spent down real quick this year.
So Eric, I'm not sure, is that just an increase in cost? Like 2020 you spent 5,300, this year we're projecting 57, next year we were going to 58. I'm not sure where the jump to the 8 came from. Is that just an increase in cost?
It was the, when we changed changed over the heating and cooling system. Now that it's partly propane based, was the increase of that. I think our electric goes down, is what we were looking at from previous years.
They went to a heat pump, shut it, natural gas, or propane back up out there.
But it's been in this whole year, correct?
Yeah. They should see something, unless it gets extremely cold, then they're gonna use propane.
Propane's gonna be up quite a bit though too, aren't they projecting?
Propane's up, natural gas is up, yeah, it's all,
So I mean, we can kinda use that as a gauge, we know how much they're using.
last I saw for propane was like $2.39 a gallon. Could be $1 too.
Any more questions on that?
Well,
We're kinda, we can,
yeah, I mean, like I said, Kristen said, we're taking notes and
Yeah.
making,
we'll just
run them
work
all.
on it.
do some checking on it.
Yep.
53848.002 asphalt, we would request a 1-year increase of what we submitted, which was 90,000, and that was agreed to by the auditor, but we would like to bump that another 30,000 to account for price increases as well, as we mentioned with the road materials. Same with 53849 culverts. We would like to bump that 25,000 from what we submitted, which was 65,000 and agreed to by the auditor. We know for sure steel prices are up 81%. Now, that doesn't translate into that much increase on metal pipe because a component of that is the manufacturing of it. Just their price increased. So that translates to about 25% increase to us. And not only with metal pipe, but plastic pipe as well. All prices are going up, so we would like to bump that one. And then concrete, for the same reasons, that one's not as volatile. We would like to bump that just 10,000 to 75,000 from 65.
Which line is pipes in, Eric?
Oh, I'm sorry, culverts is 53849.
And it was 25,000?
Yeah, started at 65. And then concrete, 53853.
That's this 10, that's that 25, that's that one, and then asphalt is 30, okay.
Under 54901.003, that was computers. And that was reduced from 25,900 down to 24,900, and that 1,000 miscellaneous line item included replacement of some keyboards, mice, a webcam, and a backup power supplies, and we would request to leave that as submitted by us at 25,900.
So the webcam, are y'all set up for meetings out there?
We are, and we do quite a bit, especially with our cartograph. We do regular meetings with them, and that is through webcam. We did get, through the CARES, we got a brand new TV and a whole system. But some of our at our desks, we still do
I
some
still do
virtual
quite a
meetings.
bit of interviews during the wintertime. They call all the time about snow, and they do all of that virtually.
So we would like to add one webcam and then just
Do they
various.
have to see you, really?
Yeah, kind of do.
Hey, yeah, just put your picture up there.
You can do that too, but I don't have a good vision.
All right, you better keep moving and get the
Yeah,
sunny
we
up
got- we
there.
got 10 minutes.
No, now we got Sam.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
there you go.
we'll try
Crack
to.
the whip,
11
Sammy.
minutes, 11 minutes.
Spilled his coffee. He's kind of grumpy.
54909. 54909.012, that's pavement failed during mill. We agree with the auditor to drop that to 0. Historically, we used that when we were doing mill and fill projects, but now we just take that out of asphalt or other line items, road materials to account for that. So we really don't need that item anymore like what we used in the past. 54902 is heavy vehicle and heavy equipment. We submitted 40,000 for that Chevrolet pickup. We'd like to bump that to 50. And then other items, as I discussed in the wish list / equipment list to spend down our surplus, we would like to work on that. But I think those really just kind of come at the end when we see where our numbers hit, and we'll work on that at the time. So 54925.000, that's highway maintenance facility. We submitted 50,000. That included the 2 sheds, doing the bathroom and break rooms, also some office improvements at our Monticello facility. This was dropped down by the auditor to 40,000. We had a miscellaneous item of 10,000 in there to account for overruns and contingency. Actually, we're probably way low on our estimate for the Monticello work, and so we'd like to bump that, as I mentioned earlier in our list, by 40,000 from what we submitted to account for that. And we might, as we look into the first part of next year, if we do decide to do a feasibility study for long-term at our facility, maybe that would kind of give us some direction on where to go with that. And then, as I mentioned, kind of wish list items at our facility would be truck parking, a building for that on the west or the south end of the property, wash bay to get back to where we can wash our trucks at the facility, paving of the parking lot, and then, as I mentioned, the feasibility study. And then, as I talked about earlier, 54929.000, safety improvements, that would be that $25,000 amount to account for these contracted safety improvement services. Any questions about the 211 budget? Okay,
Where do you want to go from here?
I got Parks and Recreation, 172. As we've talked
So
about,
it's on page 90.
as we've talked about previously with the commissioners individually, and then we've been working with the auditor quite a bit on this as well. We're proposing to go to where Parks is fully funded and not supplemented by the Road and Bridge Department as far as the funding goes. And so we submitted basically a complete budget for Parks as we envision it, and that would include hiring of one full-time employee, which would be a park supervisor, be a working supervisor, and then a part-time employee, and we mentioned earlier about Greg Block coming back to fill that role for hopefully the next few years, and that would be the major change to this budget. The amount appropriation in 21, the current year is $29,954. Auditor's recommendation was $104,722. Most of that is our personnel and salaries, which includes the benefits and all that too. Where we see this Parks Department going, we would propose the responsibilities be what we're doing currently: landscape maintenance at all county facilities, tree maintenance at all county facilities, and then snow removal at all county facility parking lots. And currently we have a truck that also serves county streets. It's on one route, and then they do the county parking lots. We would like to make that just one route, all county parking lot. That would solve some issues we had earlier in the year with trying to be at a certain parking lot at a certain time. And I think it would be a lot better to have that on one route by itself. A lot of things, a lot of good potential with our Parks Department as we go forward. We've met with JC Parks and kind of view them as a mentor, helping us build this program and using them for some training opportunities. They did make a suggestion that we join the Missouri Parks and Recreation Association and attend their conference. So in our proposed budget versus what the auditor recommended, we would request that we add some funding or additional funding in meetings. Kristen, I believe you had that at $375.
I think the only thing we included originally was
$320.
the lunch for the Parks Committee's
Yeah, that-
meetings during the year, so that would be an additional
Attendance
line.
to the conference, it's a yearly conference, would
And what is it?
bump that. We would recommend taking that to 2,000 total for that. And then add a new line item, 53265.001, that would not shown in your book there. That would be organizations, and that would be for association membership in that Missouri Parks and Recreation Association. That's $375 a year. And then on utilities, 53298, we requested $3,441 based on known cost, and this was reduced to $3,247.
And that's truly based on that spreadsheet again.
Yeah.
Is where that number came from.
So we reviewed and would recommend $3,350, which is kind of in the middle. Is there any questions about parks? I know this is a pretty big change. We've been talking about this quite a bit over the past year. We really think we need to go to this, and it would be, I think it'd be good overall to have that dedicated department fully funded. We would still manage it out of Road and Bridge, but it would be funded, and we would hire a new employee, or it could be a promotion of a current public works employee to that park supervisor position.
I agree with you, Eric, in attending those meetings, which you have a really good Parks Committee citizen input there. This isn't really go big or go home, it's just go better, I would call it, in our county park system. We ought to take the next step.
And outside of a few additions overall, it's really just shifting around where the money is coming from to pay for it. As I said earlier, it's supplemented quite a bit by Road and Bridge, especially with the snow removal of county facility parking lots and this would totally come out of that line item, which would be out of general revenue, so.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, and I like the snow removal part, so, yeah.
And not mentioned in here, and I don't know if it's worth mentioning or not, but we have two trucks right now that are road and bridge trucks. One's a 550 with a plow, the other's a pickup truck. Those would basically become parks trucks. Over time, as those need to be replaced, we would have to include that in a sales tax purchase over time. But for now, at least for the next 5 years or so, you know, we're okay on equipment for vehicles. So, that's all I have on parks. Any further discussion?
Nope.
I know we're
3
short,
minutes.
we're short on time and.
You got all the time you need.
3 minutes.
Planning and sales tax are the next two to do. Planning, really the only suggestions we would have on that are salaries. And I can discuss a little bit where we.
What page are we on?
be that.
Sorry, I'm
Oh.
trying to get there.
Wow.
Sorry. Planning department is page 54.
Wait, yeah.
So we submitted $156,117. That included a 2% COLA and career path increases for specific employees. This was reduced to $153,367, included only a 4%, or included a 4% COLA and removed a current cell phone stipend. We reviewed everything. We would like to request an amount of $157,039.05. That would reinstate the cell phone stipend and include the 4% COLA and then some career path items that we'd like to do. And I got a spreadsheet showing that.
So the change to the cell phone is we have never done a cell phone for a part-time employee, and that's what they're proposing. So you guys need to talk about that one. We currently don't provide a cell phone stipend to any part-time employees, only full-time employees. So that one would be a change on your guys' end as far as that is involved, and that's why it got taken out on my side, is we've never done that before. So
And what line was that?
it's included in the salary line.
Oh, okay.
I think that would be part-time though, wouldn't it?
That's just it. We've never done a cell phone stipend for a part-timer, so normally it's included in the salary line.
Okay, I got you.
This
Yeah.
would be a temporary thing too, because currently Mark Lubering is the one that's our building inspector, and he's currently working part-time, and he takes, all of his phone calls are taken through his cell phone, everybody calls him. So, once Mark fully retires, that person in the planning department would be replaced with a full-time employee.
So when Mark did retire, or
Simple.
sorry to mention name necessarily, but whenever this person retired, we kept everything as it was, just with a new hourly rate. Talking about part-time, one thing we didn't do and we should have, or we would request a COLA for that position as well, and keep the cell phone stipend. Currently, we have $28,000 in that, and it is truly part-time. It's hourly. That's the max it could be based on the amount of hours that this person could work and their hourly rate. And we would request that we include a 4% COLA to that hourly rate and include the cell phone stipend. Right now, we think the part-time is working pretty good. Everything's going according to plan, and we're not seeing any reduction in services on our end. We'll just kind of monitor that and how that goes over time, and if truly capable of doing it within the amount of hours that's available for the part-time.
So while you're talking about that with the part-timers and that, what did you have in there for the part-timers or your seasonal help? Did you have any kind of COLA for them? Are we gonna be able to
We didn't.
film them for the snow plow drivers?
We increased that quite a bit last year. I think we took it from $12 or $12.50 to $17.50 per hour for the snow drivers,
Okay.
which was a major deal in getting some people to work for us. Some said that they couldn't do it for the lower amount, and we were seeing that as an issue, so we bumped it last year. all that falls within our part-time budget, which we didn't talk about because that stayed the same as what it was before. I think it's
Okay.
50,000 total.
I was just saying if you're recommending the same thing for those or just this one part-time position.
We're
so.
not fully staffed on our part-time for snow removal yet. We're still struggling with some difficulty to find people, but we're working on it. We think we're gonna be able to bribe them a little bit.
With those are summer help. Those are new employees each year. It's not a continual, the same person over time as it is in the planning department.
Our high school summer help, we're still paying $12 an hour.
Yeah.
That's a little different than somebody driving around a
Yes.
umpteen-ton machine that could
Correct.
kill you, so.
Right.
Right.
Just didn't know what it was looking like keeping our winter help and keeping roads clear, cause.
The concrete industry's the ones that we rely on that. Those guys, usually when it's snowing, are not delivering concrete, so they come and drive trucks for us. But a few of them have taken other snow plowing jobs that pay a little bit better. So we're
Right.
trying
I
to
just-
keep up with standards on that.
Yep, if we're able to fill the seats with butts, then it's one thing, but you're just talking
We're
about
working
the
on
other.
it. We're down 2 right now, but we're bribing them with M&Ms and peanuts.
We generally have about anywhere from 5 to 10. It depends on the snow event and
Yeah.
how bad it is and how much we gotta do work overnight and for how many days, but we've had 7 or 8 last year that were
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
But I think 10 total that could be on call, so we just gotta keep working on building up that inventory of people that are available.
You gotta make it worth their time. I mean, it's.
Exactly,
At
yeah.
some point, they're gonna say, screw it, I'm not leaving family to come in here and push snow till the wee hours of the morning. and stuff.
Does that position require a CDL?
Yes.
It does to drive the tandems and the
Tandem
single
would
axle.
require a Class A CDL with an air brake endorsement. Class B CDL, excuse me.
And they have to submit their information and do a drug test with every time we hire them. So we go through the whole operation and requirement on that.
Okay, anything else?
Tool and shop supplies, that would be a new line item. We'd like to
I'm
add,
going by my store block.
we'd like to put $250 in there because our planning department does need tools, occasionally hand tools, and that had been taken out of road and bridge. So we'd like to move that fully over to planning, and it's only $250. And then
250.
250, yes, that would be 53295, a new item. And then 53299, vehicle and equipment operation, we submitted 7,500. That was reduced to 6,500. Fuel is estimated at 6,825, leaving 675 for maintenance. So we would request that stay at 7,500.
Kristen, some of that was some of the repairs that we had done to the planning vehicles. We had been charging back to road and bridge and not to planning.
I think you realize we found
Yeah,
that
she
about a
found
week or
that
two
one.
ago. And that's all I have on planning. The next would be sales tax.
Hold on.
You got anything else?
So, one line item that we didn't consider when we added, all the line, are you talking about in parks?
No,
Planning has insurance.
it's in parks.
Yeah, so parks, we may have to add an insurance line.
Okay.
I don't think we considered that, so the vehicles and the mowers and stuff that are in parks will have to have insurance, so.
And those, and I don't know if it matters to you or not, but those are stored out at that fire station, if that makes a difference with the insurance, difference with what they charge or
I
whatever.
don't think so.
We don't have insurance on them now,
Uh-huh,
Through road and bridge,
through road
so
and
this
bridge.
would move.
yes.
Move
It's
over
in
one
their
more to it.
insurance.
Book is getting thicker, thanks, guys.
Okay, so the last one is capital improvement, and, there's a lot of fluctuation in
Page.
there. Page
118.
122. A lot of fluctuation in theirs depending on what projects get completed between now and the end of the year. So if you wanna kind of do a quick overview of the projects maybe that he's included, but some of those numbers will change, depending on where those projects fall at the end of the year. So if a project's still open that we thought was going to be completed, we will carry forward the remaining amount of that PO. If we have to carry forward enough to cover a bunch of open POs, we may have to reduce some of the current year projects to adjust that. So this budget really does not get set until closer to the end of the year, after that last budget run, when we know exactly where we're at. I know there's a few projects like Business 50 that is gonna have some fluctuation to it. So that one may change us significantly one way or the other.
And we have two sales tax budgets,
Uh-huh.
805 still, and then 807 is the new sales tax.
And then that's due to the passage of the new one. So every 5 years, we create a new department or open a department up to account for the sales tax over the 5-year period separately. So we can track the expenses that were spent out of each particular passage, what they were. So we will have 2 open next year to finish out the remaining of the one that's currently open. And then we start collecting the new one in January, so you'll see that new department.
For the current sales tax 805, Northport stormwater improvements and Lesh Road gravel road upgrade we have planned.
Sorry, guys, the book does not include the
Does not include
projects.
projects, okay.
I will pull them up on the screen, but I'm sorry, it's
In the
not
interest
book.
of time, is it okay that I just kind of highlight the projects, and as we get closer to the end, we can kind of figure out the dollar amounts, as Kristen said. So in 805, Northport Drive, actually, we're doing a full pavement improvement on that road, as well as the others around it. Out of 805, we would pay for a stormwater improvement, and then into 807, we would actually do the pavement improvement in there. And then Lesh Road gravel road upgrade, that's finishing out the gravel road upgrade portion of the sales tax monies allotted. Then 807, we have some new vehicle and heavy equipment, a motor grader, which the county commission agreed to an earlier commitment to purchase that because it's about a year out to get that ordered and received. And then an F-350 utility truck, I think we pre-ordered that as well. And then a
Pre-ordered it, it's due here in June.
compressor and a 20-ton trailer and a 15-foot brush hog. Bridge construction, Hem Street Road bridge removal is a new project. Under road construction, we would like to begin the design of a gravel road upgrade. Currently looking at Hickory Hill Road, but that'll go through a process through the Road and Bridge Advisory Board to make sure that that's the right road to do. Under a new line item in the sales tax is stormwater improvements. We're taking that out of the bridge catch-all line item 54908, which better defines a lot of our projects, which are stormwater out of that. So South Brooks Drive, Phase 3 stormwater improvements, Lakewood Road stormwater improvements, and then some miscellaneous spot repairs here and there as those arise in some of the subdivisions. And then important to point out, in resurfacing 54928, that number increased from the current tax by $500,000 per year to $1,750,000. And as I mentioned earlier, with our pavement preservation, I'd be looking at a lot more chip seal into the future. That'll be a big component of that.
Huge.
And then 54929, safety improvements. We will do the Tanner Bridge Road Phase 5 improvement south of Grand Highland, and then a small sidewalk improvement on Rainbow Drive.
So you had Lakewood stormwater, or you have resurfacing as well for them next year, or is that just?
For Lakewood?
Resurfacing's gonna kind of be,
That's gonna be a 2 or 3 year plan on the actual overlay part of that.
Okay.
We have 2 specified projects in Lakewood subdivision out of, I'm gonna say, roughly 5 or 6 total stormwater improvement areas in that subdivision. So we gotta get
Okay.
all that done, and then we'll do the pavement.
yeah,
That's-
I'd just make sure you told me the same thing before. I didn't remember what that was, so,
Yeah, so it's about a
I
2
know
or
it's-
3 year program to completely upgrade all of Lakewood.
okay.
We'll continue to keep maintaining the pavement until then.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions, but it sounds like y'all have been talking to their home association and stuff too, and so I don't think all of them know what's going on.
Yep. And then, real quick, in the 804 sales tax, that's the other county facility improvements, the 15% portion. A few items, and Kristen, that's listed out.
On page 119 is those capital requests.
So there's one, for Public Works, we would request to replace the fueling system, and that's the Fuel Master tracking system, as well as the pumps. They're all outdated. Fuel Master can't upgrade with the current pump system. They're the rotary dial, and they don't track the fuel usage properly, and so we want to replace that whole system. And so that would be a cost, estimated cost of $71,309. And that's all that we have requested out of that. Now, there was a parking lot preventative maintenance in there under Public Works, and I think that it was inadvertently added. We had originally requested to improve the parking lot at County Park, and that would be under Parks. And that's been discussed through our Parks Committee. So we would take the remaining money in the current sales tax allocated for parks, add that to new monies in the new sales tax to do the full project.
Is the 102 a good estimate, or?
Right now, pre-design 150, and roughly about 60, 70 or so. I think we took the mower out of the parks allotment at the current sales tax, so we're looking at 90 or so in the new sales tax for that.
Something else we probably should talk about while Eric's here is, we talked about some parking lot plans for different facilities. I know that Toby's coming next to talk to Juvenile, and her parking lot was on the list. So if you guys have questions while Eric's here about that plan or process, you may want to ask about that while
It's
he's
been
still
on for
here.
a long time,
Yeah.
so it needs to be done.
So we're, between Matt and I and working with the various departments, we'll come up with a plan to do overlays of all the county facility parking lots or preventative maintenance. The health department needs a seal on that parking lot. Pringer needs a full mill and fill replacement of the asphalt. So we'll, and then Carnegie Building and around there, we're looking at that too. So that'll be one whole.
And the Monroe Street lot that
the
we
new
just
lot.
acquired?
Yes. Yeah, so it's a list of 5 or 6 different locations, and then we will bid that with our annual overlay contract to get the best price possible there, so. And then one last thing, under building projects, we got on here, under Public Works, replace garage doors of $175,000. I think that's just been left on that list from previous years. We did that about 3 or 4 years ago, so I think we can take that off.
It's the back building.
Okay.
You didn't do the back building yet.
We have not done that, but I don't know that we were not really planning
Something
on it.
Larry had asked for.
Okay. So it was the second, the other building?
The shop,
Okay.
sign shop?
Yeah. I think we can just wait on that, maybe see where things go with this feasibility study, so, okay.
Okay. Do you guys have any other questions for Road Bridge?
Not at this time.
Nope, I like the snow removal.
I'll reserve it for later.
Okay.
So next on the list is Juvenile. They're on page 74.
Okay, Toby.
Quick break.
Can I get your signature? This was on that.
Oh, that one that we, yeah.
Can we take 5 minutes?
Okay.
No.
You got it.
Yeah, it was, something Larry had asked for back doors.
Who's in the hot seat?
The entry doors.
They're warmed up.
The guy hasn't mentioned anything to me about
Okay.
it.
Oh, you're fine. No, it's- I'm gonna get another cup of coffee, see if I can spill it.
They also, the one at the center down.
I don't know how we got so lucky with 5 different budgets.
We need those standing desks.
Oh, man. Okay, time
I was
to,
gonna take you coffee, but I didn't know we were gonna go back.
Don't worry, we'll have more questions for you later.
I'm sure you will. I've already forgotten everything by then.
This is it.
It wasn't too bad, was it?
No.
Hello.
No, that's what I'm gonna.
We're taking a quick 5 minutes. Everybody drink too much coffee.
I couldn't wait, you know, while we were talking about propane.
All righty, well,
Hey, it was nice talking to you.
Good talking to you.
There you are.
You're still in the budget for the
Stealing your budget.
That's why I get an hour.
Next time I'll give you an hour and a half.
I do think it's gonna have to be.
Next year I'll have another year under my belt, maybe won't be as bad.
In most cases, to set it out. We'll take care of putting it out.
I think it's gonna be too far, because I think, I mean, we'll want to set it up in certain areas for species, but more important, it's gonna be figured out. So, all that stuff too, so.
So they're gonna ask that question.
I think it's gonna be John. Getting estimated.
Good morning. How are you?
And it may involve Harry too. Brad called me a little bit ago, he got a royal buck from Gary Green over some stuff. He said it's going up the ladder. You got involved on the previous one, Jeff, that's on
Okay.
you the heads up. It's your area, so I'm giving you the heads up.
How are you?
Basically got mad enough, he hung up the phone on Brad.
Good.
His
So
last words was, this was going above you.
that's fine. Jared's usually full of quite a bit of,
Pissing, but
yeah.
broke my French, but
He gets pissed off about stuff. I think we just gotta talk to him and, so.
just give y'all.
Figured out, but this is gonna be,
So, he knows how to get over
Thanks,
this.
Sam.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good morning.
You.
What is this?
Okay.
Page 74, if you're not there.
74. The book is go. Which one is it? Jobs?
Yeah.
Oh,
Not Joe. Yeah.
Not Joe.
Matt, remember how you spelled Ralph's name on the list? If you give him 2 weeks.
Did I?
Was on one of them.
Not on this one.
Okay. Let's go.
I'm ready. I'm gonna
Okay.
let Toby talk.
Okay, so, just a couple of points. I believe that the, budget officer recommendations are on point with what our department requested. There would just be a couple of points there on, the juvenile justice preservation line item. There's at least some discussion and some question as to whether that should be on our budget or if that needs to be rolled over to the clerk. We did get confirmation from ASCA that should be, because of the way the memo is written, that it should be in our line item. I've turned that over to Judge Beadham and asked for some clarification there, or if he agrees with their assessment of where that money should be.
And I don't know if
Which
you
one was
guys, Juvenile Justice Preservation Fund, I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
received the email from MAC. Their opinion is totally different, that it should be a separate fund set up under the courts. So there's some discussion still going on there, so that could change depending on, where those discussions lead, but,
So who, I
That's-
guess that was gonna be, my question was, how does that affect you all? Where's this money going to?
So this is the Juvenile Justice Preservation Fund, and what it's for is the expansion of programming to the 18-year-olds, because we are up to the 18-year-olds because they expanded, they raised the age.
So it would go to you to expand to 18-year-olds, not to the court.
So
well,
it-
so the difference there is that in the statute, it says that it's to be spent by the juvenile officer, but under the direction of the circuit clerk. So the confusion there is that the circuit clerk is the one that should be writing the checks based on what juvenile officer proposes.
And the state didn't say, county, here's some money to do it with.
Well, so that's
Or
the
did they?
confusion as well, because the check did come to us originally.
Oh, it
and
did?
got deposited this year into our general fund. because there wasn't a lot of guidance and the memo was a little,
The memo
confusing.
references two pieces. It references expansion of services and salaries, juvenile officer salaries. So salaries would go to
us.
county and the service piece would go to the clerks. So we're looking for clarification on that. There's been a number of conversations there.
Did you guys get the email from David Owen at MAC? He sent some FAQs about that program. I will forward.
Yeah, and that's what I was
I will forward
looking
that
at,
to
'cause
all of you.
it basically said that the funds are at the discretion of the juvenile office to be spent by them. So doesn't matter where the check comes from, it's gonna come to us, they're gonna spend it.
Well, so, yes and no. Let me pull this up right here.
I believe the statute governs how it's supposed to be controlled and
Aren't they
regulated.
busy trying to mess with the sheriff's salary first? I mean, should they?
Be nice.
Would be nice.
So it says expenditures
John.
from the county circuit clerk's juvenile justice preservation fund are made at the discretion of the juvenile office for the circuit court. Yeah, so it's very unclear.
And the memo, I believe that Asuka believed that the memo would clarify it, and it didn't.
Well, yeah, but whether they try to clarify, or are you gonna believe what they say anyway? I mean, what kind of water does that bucket hold?
I think
I
right
mean,
now
all the-
it's being handled very differently by every county because we're all confused as to exactly what should be happening. So we're trying to get some clarification.
On that 19,000.
On that
731. Line item 43766, that residential emergency service. So we have just shifted from a residential facility to an emergency care facility, effective October 1. It's difficult to project what the revenue from that will be because this is new. We've been a residential facility since 2005. So this will be a fluid number.
So we may need to talk about possibly reducing this figure. If you look at the history of that account, we don't have a lot of history after the change, but obviously what we received in October and November so far is significantly less than what we were receiving. So we may need to reduce that number.
We're able to bill less for an emergency care youth versus a residential youth. And we are being diligent and deliberate in making sure that the children that we take in placement, we can adequately meet their needs, and we are not beyond the skill set of our staff. When we added the residential program in 2005, it picked up 3 employees. We only are still employing 2 of the employees. We have a program director and 1 case manager. Other case manager position we did not fill when we reduced the numbers several months ago. With that, the overtime line item 51001, we had not put anything in, we had not requested anything. Kristen had suggested the 25,000. I believe that we paid a good bit of overtime this year, but it was offset out of that part-time line item because our staff numbers were so low. So when I talked with Kristen about whether we were going to need that, it's certainly a question. We are currently staffed. All of our full-time positions are now filled, and we have 3 of our 5 part-time positions filled. So we're optimistic that when we have all of our positions filled, then we won't be running overtime the way we were this last year. I do, as far as the salaries, want to propose, we had our executive secretary position open. Our employee retired, I believe she retired August 1st, and we had not filled that position. What we did was, over the last several months, look at whether our receptionist and secretary, receptionist/secretary, and our office manager could absorb those duties. So the copies that I've given you would be the adjustment to the office manager job description and the receptionist secretary job description. The change is bolded on both of them, and with the change to their job description, then we would propose that their salary increase $2,500 per year. So those two salaries would increase to offset, and then we would not be filling the executive secretary position.
So I did mention when I did the budget that there were some adjustments to salaries in certain departments based on recommendations from the department. We will talk about those as we go through each department, and Toby had two. So the office manager, $2,500, and then her receptionist, $2,500.
And then not filling the, where was it offsetting from again?
The executive secretary.
Executive
position.
secretary.
So we made some changes in October to some of our other staff. That's when that case manager position was not refilled. So we've been doing some adjusting through the process. Hopefully this is the last stage of those changes.
Okay.
And then one other one that I will mention that was not requested by the department, we did kind of an evaluation of the positions within the county that fell under $15 an hour, and have proposed some adjustments to those employees at the lower end of our scale to try to get the minimum salary of the county to that $15 an hour mark. Their cook in their department is one of those positions, and it totaled about $606 to adjust him up to that. And it ends up being a salary of $31,200.
And the last piece that I have to discuss would be the capital improvements, if there aren't questions as to revenue, the expenditures.
If you guys want to flag or reference that page 119 in front of the capital improvements fund, we kind of list out those capital requests, and I will have each department kind of go over what their requests were.
So we have replaced the garbage disposal as one, and it didn't make it to the new year, so it's been replaced, so we can remove that one. Paint the court services wing and the lobby, I don't believe that it's been painted. I think it's original with the building, so probably hasn't been painted in 30 years. The bid is there attached. I believe it's about 11,000, 17,000. 17,000 for the paint. And then the security system upgrade. There's a number of pieces to it, and that's the precision security. And what we're looking at is we want to add camera slots to our current system. We have to upgrade the capacity of it, which would then allow us to add 3 new cameras to detention in the cells, and then 1 into our intake room, so that we wouldn't have to actually open the cell flap to look in it. We wouldn't have to open the cubby, so that we could actually secure that entire cell if necessary, and then 1 into where we do intakes, because that is a locked room as well, so that we would always be able to visually monitor what the kids are doing. We would like to add a monitor to our residential facility. So right now, detention can see what's happening through the entire building. But after hours and evening, residential has no idea what's happening in detention because it's secured back there. As the employees go back and forth, we just want to make sure that there's more oversight as to what's happening in detention, and that our residential facility is aware of that as well. And then it would upgrade the monitor in our detention unit. So we'd be adding 4 cameras total, which would require an upgrade to the system, adding a monitor to residential, and adjusting the monitor in detention. We also would like to move, we've got a camera right now in what was the program director's office. She would do counseling back there. We have moved her office to the fishbowl. We would like to move that camera from her office up to the front office so that she can, we could use it more as a timeout room. Have monitor if we have youth in that room. So that's what that is.
And you guys should have copies of those quotes. Most of the time what we do with sales tax is we kind of have this list that we kind of know is coming. We don't approve individual items throughout the budget process. We will make them come back and request that, but this gives you a good idea of what those requests are.
I like to redo the floors over there too, because you're talking about the paint. The floors are the same thing. Those are old. When I came in, yeah,
So
I think they're past saving.
I believe that they are, and we did not add that as a capital improvement. Based on our detention standards, we are grandfathered in with our detention facility, but it is wildly outdated and lacks probably the capacity that we're gonna need because of raise the age. And so we're currently looking at developing what we need to do as far as our residential facility and our detention facility, if we need to renovate, if we need to expand, and so we're reluctant to propose putting a new floor in there when we may need to make just some overall renovations to the detention facility in general. Judge Beadham and I have been talking about that, and so so we wanted to be mindful of that as to the floors.
Yeah, so I think there's some other changes that may need to be made, and in the process, floors may be approached or done.
And state's gonna send us money to do that, right?
Yeah, the 19 they sent us.
Yeah, wow, thank you.
The 19 they sent us specifically eliminates the option for capital improvements. They were clear on that part.
Do you guys have questions?
Just a quick, quick one. Has the fence issue been cured out there by, I see Greg has stepped out.
Yes, so yes, there is a fence. The fence is going to go back up, and it's going to be reinforced with brackets. Yes. So that the Supreme Court detention standards require that youth have a place to do large muscle exercise. And because of the limits on the internal space, that's where we let them get the large muscle exercise. So it is important, but we need to look at that when we look at our detention space as well.
You'll see an invoice for the material in this next accounts payable. So we're paying for that, and so Greg approved that to be paid. So obviously they must be out there or they're delivering stuff.
Yes, so they were there last week, one day, I know. And they have what was there prior laid down so it wasn't further damaged, but there is the intent to put it all back up and replace the pieces that were damaged. The other piece that was attached was the Jefferson asphalt for the parking lots that Eric was.
And I did have a conversation with Eric before he left. He's gonna get us an estimate on all the buildings, so we have a better figure for in here for what the cost is.
Any other questions?
Nope,
Nope,
thank you.
Thanks, Toby.
sorry I had to wait.
That's all right.
think we're gonna keep moving. So health department is next. They're on page 59. I brought more paper because I know how you love paper.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's only 2 pages. Public Works had like 200 pages, so you're already a step ahead of them.
That's great. I need
They're
one
out,
for
so.
the minutes if you have
They
it.
shouldn't have left with the sheriff still on deck because they may end up with the animal control.
I
have to go. Leave the budget alone.
So, I don't know if we, there's, let's start with capital improvement. There's not much in our, for our building, I mean, to paint the exterior and the repairs. And then, of course, all that security stuff we're still working on, but it didn't get to the point where it got put in the capital improvements, and it's mostly ARPA funding anyway, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So, take care of that first. As far as like what I submitted versus the auditor's budget, everything is very similar. Chris and I talked back and forth if there had to be adjustments made. You'll notice that our revenue, I think I said this last budget year too, that our budget is kind of wonky compared, because we have had an increase in revenue because of more contracts, like the ELC contract that we're getting for $528,000. Donna has some figures on how much billing we did last year versus this year for like the COVID vaccine. We brought in like the regional COVID vaccine contract was like 108,000, and then what was our billing?
156,976 was as of the end of September.
Yeah, she pulled it
With our commercial, were you talking about for COVID or commercial?
COVID.
So for COVID, 167,579 as of the end of, well, today, I just ran it through today even though, yeah. And we'll have a little bit more coming in, but right now we're not because we're just doing them on Thursdays and we don't have as many people, but we'll have a little bit more coming in, but.
And then our commercial was 183,000. So definitely bringing in a lot more revenue than the health department usually does. And I mean, it's all because of our staff and the extra work. Dana did all the work to set up billing contracts with the commercial insurance companies so we can bill for vaccines. A lot of health departments don't do that. So, they just send people to pharmacies or doctor's offices. So by having a billing specialist, it's really beneficial to us. So the main thing I asked for is to invest in the employees. I know we've talked a lot about, the premium pay or hazard pay. I don't know if you guys made a decision on that this morning. You guys said you were, okay. I know you're going to talk about it again today. And then when I submitted my budget, I didn't know that the auditor was going to ask for 4% cost of living, so I asked for 3% cost of living because that's usually pretty standard. And then because of the extra workload for our front desk staff and our nurses, I asked for another 3% merit for them, which we know that now it's been 4% cost of living. And then it just, a lot of additional duties, a lot of additional stress, and we tried to do it with very minimal overtime. Also, the front desk staff, I think we had them maybe classified as like receptionists or office clerks, and they're more of a medical receptionist because they check people's insurance. Their duties are not the same as just a front desk person or a receptionist. They're more of a medical receptionist. So I did some searching, and the average medical receptionist pay is around $32,000. So both of those staff were significantly lower than that. So we asked for adjustments, which we could look at that in a minute. And then, we're full staffed right now, and I really want to keep those staff. The other adjustments I asked for were with our environmental staff. We had an environmental staff that was experienced and left, and when he came back, in the interest of time, we hired him back quickly as a 1, and he should have been hired back as a 2. We want to get his salary back to where he was before he left because he brought all that knowledge and experience back with him. He didn't require any training. And then we hired 2 more staff this year, and in the interest of time, we hired them as 1s, and because of their experience and their master's degrees, they probably should have been hired in as 2s. We try to, reward people for those master's degrees and for that experience. And I noticed when I was looking at this to prepare my remarks for today that they got the 4% and then we did an adjustment. And I don't know if the more fair thing for them to do would be to give them the adjustment and then give them the 4%, because they probably should have been hired in as twos. So I don't know if it's too late to make, it's probably not much of a difference to my budget, but it'll make a huge difference to them. So.
It's just the way we've done it across the board is the COLA went in first.
And then the
And
adjustment.
then the adjustment. So, we've done that across all departments is the COLA is first and then the adjustment. Same thing with those adjustments to the $15 an hour. It was COLA first and then whatever took you to that point. I will mention.
I'll say, do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, there are, is it 2 or 3? I think it's 2.
Were the $15 an hour?
Yes.
No, the $15 per hour is one of
Receptionist.
the WIC clerks.
Yeah, so I think both WIC clerks, WIC certifiers were down there, so both of those got an adjustment to take them to that $15 an hour. I think you had 2 others that were, but with their adjustment, they're going beyond that, so they will be above it. So there were 4 altogether, but you had already requested.
The 2 front desk staff,
Yes.
I asked for adjustments for them, and then I asked for adjustments for the EPHS staff.
And another thing with our front office staff, if you notice, our registrar, we brought in almost 30,000 more than what we budgeted for. The state is sending everybody to us. They are only doing it by appointment, and even then, sometimes they'll, even on things that we can't do, they'll send them over to us, and then we tell them we can't, and they get upset. So our front office staff really do. They're not just a, hi, how are you, how may I direct your call, or whatever. They take a lot of phone calls. They see a lot of people. I mean, there were several days this year, especially when we were doing a lot of other things, that we would see 70-some people in the clinic, and then they would see at least an additional 30 people on top of that with the birth certificates, death certificates, and so I really do think our front office staff, they are very valuable to us.
So
and we have
why
got
are we having to do all those nowadays? We used to not have to do those. It was more of a convenience for a county employee per se to come into our own office to be able to do a birth certificate. But now we got people getting yelled at, screamed at, attacked.
slapped.
Yeah,
Scratch.
it's because they're doing them by
So,
appointment
but-
only. The DHSS doesn't have the staff in the office, they're doing by appointment only, and
But
because
we're
we're
supposed to
here.
pick it up.
Right.
So why are we having to do it without being compensated for
We
it?
do get compensated, so every time we hit the prod system, it's like .0024
Okay, justly
cents.
compensated.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that, justly compensated. So they're not doing their job, we're picking up the slack.
Right.
And we're not getting what we should out of it. If they're not gonna do their job, then just give us the money that they're getting for it. Close their doors and we'll just do it.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's frustrating
So-
for our staff because there's some things we can't do. It's frustrating for the funeral director.
It's frustrating hearing about it. It's
Yeah.
just,
Well, years ago, back when I needed that death certificate from Greene County, they had told the Kansas City Consul General that it was gonna be 30 days or 60 days, and you got a copy for me quick.
Are these folks coming from all over? Are they coming from Cole County?
Oh, it's probably all
it's
over.
all over.
Yeah.
Come
We had
from
somebody
all-
drive from St. Louis to come down and get a birth
So it was
certificate.
just quicker. It was quicker to drive
Right.
here than to try to get it from the state or to try to go to one of the counties there.
And if they're born in Missouri, we can get them a birth certificate. So they have to be born in Missouri, but yeah.
can we
And then-
charge more if they're out of the county?
No, I think it's
think so.
it's set by a rule.
Tell them to go to DHSS. Tell them we're only doing by
They like
appointment if
coming
you're
to
from
us
out of
because
county.
we are quicker, we're friendlier,
Sure.
we don't have to have an appointment.
That's what they
but-
call convenient.
Right.
And convenience marts around here, you pay extra for those things.
Yeah, we can't charge more by some rule.
But our girls up front really do a great job, and we've got a really, really good crew right now.
We
I
do.
agree.
I would say that in the 8 years I've been here, we've had a lot of drama. The front desk has been, we've trained a lot of new people, and right now, like I said, we're fully staffed in every department, and we have a really great crew, and I want to keep them, and I want to keep them happy. And
Perhaps, excuse me, perhaps we need a witness at the Budget Committee hearing for DHSS this year.
To
Or
talk
I should
about,
say
yeah.
next year, when they begin to talk about their budget.
it's very frustrating.
Do you guys have other questions for Christy?
Donna did print the antibody test numbers too, just
If we want
so
to
you
continue
would
with
to
it or
know.
not. Since September 7th, which is when we started with the free test, through November 23rd, we did 558 tests. We averaged 10 to 15 a day. We do schedule those just so, because we wanted to continue with our other services. I don't think that that's the most important service that we offer. So we average 10 to 15 per day. Sometimes we'll do a little bit more if we've got the time and people call. The nurse spends about 20 minutes with each client that comes in because they're invariably going to have questions. Most of them it's just a finger stick, but we still have to go over some questions. And the cost is about $12 per test. So it has not been it's not a great cost. When we were charging like $20. But now that it's free,
So we just thought you would probably like an update on how many.
Are y'all
we
still
do.
able to keep up with it, and y'all doing it by appointment only, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
back
we
when,
are.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, when it was just walk in those first few days or weeks that we couldn't keep up.
It was nuts.
It was crazy, but, so we just.
Do you release totals about number of tests and percent positive or with antibodies, or
We have not released any of that.
is it not to be released, or
Well, we-
I'm just curious,
That
I
would
guess.
be we report it to the state. We have to report it to the state, and so then within EpiTrax, which is our state database, it's in there, but those numbers are not included because these are not a positive COVID test. This is just
Antibodies.
antibodies, meaning at some point they've either had the vaccine or they've had the disease. So that's basically all it is. They even classify them as suspects, so we just close them out when they report back. But we have to report them to the state, but there's no numbers to report as far as how many have we done, how many were positive. Yeah.
Good.
You know, just an aside, but, and you all know this, I know, but, you know, our employees are our greatest assets, and I really, really, really want to keep them, and I'd really like to see some compensation for them, because I do think that they are our greatest asset that we have. If we don't have them, we can't do the work that we do.
Yeah, I think we briefly talked about it before y'all got here. We're still waiting to hear a little bit from BKD, and then to try to go through how we're gonna do it. So hopefully this week we can make some kind of decision. I think we're just gonna bring it up under old business each day, but I'd really like to see it done as soon as possible, so waiting to get some information from BKD so our auditor and finance are comfortable with proceeding with it, I think is kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
We've caught back up to the schedule. Melissa's
Look
next.
at us.
Oh.
We get extra bonus points.
There you go. Who put us behind? You have to give Eric some,
Yeah. I told him
trouble
next
about
year he
that.
gets an hour and a half because it takes too long.
didn't he say it wouldn't take that long?
I don't think,
Thanks, appreciate it.
Just so you guys are prepared, it's page 44 is the next one, and if you guys wanna take another quick break and grab some coffee or something.
I need some
we have
coffee.
a few- we
They
have
not
a few
here?
minutes.
Or water.
Melissa's not here yet.
Wow.
earlier, but
Well, jump ahead if you, okay, you gotta get water.
I was gonna say, we only have about 10 minutes, so.
yeah.
I took my little break there, so I took it out of turn. I had to go though. Sam didn't have any coffee or drink, so he probably didn't have to
Yeah,
go.
I
I-
made another one.
What's in there?
I know, I didn't know.
After you spilled your coffee, I thought you might have got something in there to steady your hand a little more. That's my good hand.
Would you like to just go ahead and then I'll see where Melissa.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and do, we'll jump around and Melissa, yeah. Come on in.
You're ruining my schedule, Sam, stop it.
Tough.
Well, and I know we've got some stuff.
You're early, we're making you early.
Hey, all right. Nothing wrong with that.
There's Melissa.
Oh,
Hey again, Jen, how are you?
okay.
Melissa's first, Bill.
Yeah,
Oh.
we lost out.
You stay seated
Check it
there.
out already.
Bill, you're fine, you're fine. Bill, you're fine, stay there. We can just roll right into it. No, Melissa, come on up, we'll get it done.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
put you in the front row.
Yeah, we don't wanna mess
Y'all
up,
can share the
we
table.
don't wanna mess up Kristen's schedule.
Oh, I'm fine with it. If we're ahead of schedule, she'd probably be all right.
Good. Thank you.
You don't want us getting hangry. Scheduled till 1, aren't we?
12:30, well, 1 o'clock by the time we get done.
Okay. If I get like that, we're
Bring
good.
yourself some hangers next time.
I got some deer jerky.
All right.
Okay.
Real quick before, but Melissa gets started, she did have a request for capital that I inadvertently did not include in the list for a plotter. My mistake, it was just overlooked in listing out the capital requests. So I wanted to point that out. 3,000, is that the number? Yeah, so $3,000 was the estimated cost for that plotter.
Yeah, and I had, the Public Works added a license for doing the field work with the cartograph product last year. And I just got the quote for my next year's bill. And so the maintenance for that is on there, so that was an additional cost. And I don't know, I know the health department is also, the environmental guys have been testing a GPS unit to do field work themselves. So they may be getting a additional license next year. So I don't know if you want to continue to put the maintenance on my budget, or I think that's what we've done in the past versus charging each individual office for that maintenance. So to me, it'd be easier, probably organization-wise, to go ahead and keep putting it in the GIS budget. So anyway, that went up.
Just real quickly, I had the GeoCortex amount increased in there already.
Okay.
And then I will adjust that SRI maintenance agreement to the actual dollar amount.
And I did notice that earlier when I was looking. I was like, what? That is a little higher, but the total that I came up with is $11,215.59 for 2022. Tell me if you come up with a different number.
I'm 11,217. Did I miss something?
Probably rounded up on two areas.
The Esri is 7,063.
Yep, so right up there, Melissa, I don't know if you can see it, 7064 is what I have in Esri, and then I have the 1,500 for your monthly GIS contract with the city, and then I had the 2653 in there for GeoCortex.
Okay, your addition is probably better than mine.
Okay.
That's kind of did it in a hurry. And then the only other thing I wanted to bring up was I have been, especially around hunting season, I started getting other calls about getting a plat book. We did our first, in 2019, we did our first printed plat book here in-house. We had 80 copies printed, and we sold out of all of them. We charged $35 a piece for them. We paid under $10 to have them printed. We don't have like a steady like time that we do it, but it's been about every 3 or 4 years. So I'm thinking maybe next year might be a good time to do another one, because I am getting a battering of calls, and I know the assessor's office still has people walking in to ask for them and call.
I'd say we run out, print some more.
So, yeah, and so I just wanted to see what you guys thought about. We did 80 last time. I think we could easily sell 125, maybe even 150. So I wanted to see what you thought about.
That sounds fine now. You just can't reprint a 3-year-old book, right? You have to update.
Yeah, you have to update all the ownership information. It takes quite a while to get that set up and everything, so it'll be weird.
I mean, so,
I kind of work on it as I have.
right. It's not that we make $30 a book. It's just that the printing cost is 10 and the sales price is 40 or whatever. But there's a lot of sunk cost. Okay. Right.
And we don't give them away either. I mean,
No.
they're
That's-
paying
no,
a
no.
fair price
I
for it,
think-
so I think get some made.
Right.
Yeah, I do it for cost for county offices, and then like the fire districts and stuff, they're good usually for reduced costs also. So,
Okay. That sounds fair.
Yeah. So I just want to, because it's not really in out of my budget. You usually
So I
take
think
it
we've paid for
somewhere
the
else.
printing out of 127, printing and binding, since it's a county cost, it's not necessarily a GIS cost, and then the revenue from the books sold go back into
And I was
GIS
trying to
as
pull
well.
up the revenue stuff, and I can't ever find anything in PSO. So, anyway.
Yeah, I think you had about $328 in 2020 from plat books you've sold.
That, it's gotta be.
Well, I think it was the year before, probably, when
Okay.
you saw
Yeah,
the
'cause
bulk
that was
of
what I was
that
looking
cost.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's all I have. Everything else, to me, from what I see, it looks good. Like I said, I look for these field apps to be more used, so we'll be probably adding more licenses. I think that the health department was happy with the GPS unit that they've been testing, to go out and collect their, the sewage lagoons and things like that out in the field. So I just look for those maintenance costs to be more in the future for this type of thing.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole or into the weeds, but when you go to GIS and you look and you see the property from the sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
How often is that picture updated, and how does it get updated?
The aerial photography.
Right.
That is whenever we do a flight. We just did one this year. We try to do it every 3 years or
Okay.
so. I think it was like 4 years or 5 years this time, but we would rather have it like every 3 years at a maximum.
And we've tried to partner
Yeah.
with other, although
Yeah.
lately that hasn't.
The last time we did not, Boone County is one of the counties we partner with. They flew on their own last year, and we didn't have the partners that we usually have. It would be great, and what our goal is, and what we try to do is get everybody in our vicinity to go together on imagery, because it's much cheaper. But the costs still keep coming down on that aerial imagery flight, so, this year we had, it still wasn't like horrible cost-wise.
So these are planes that do it, it's not satellite?
No,
Okay.
we don't have satellite is, can be a bit problematic. You have clouds that you have to deal with, and I think it
Airplanes, you
costs
just
more.
have doors that you forget to open.
Yeah, that was a bad year.
Or forget to close?
Well, it's like looking at Amish Christmas lights, I mean.
Yeah, we had
Just-
that issue happen, but that was a one-off, hopefully. But yeah, hopefully, and because I'm affiliated with MGISAC, Missouri GIS Advisory Council, we also kind of try and work to get these partnerships together too. So it's definitely something that's on the radar. Yeah. That's it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. The newbie.
Hello.
So emergency management is on page 87.
Sir, you all moved in?
Yes, and actually, one of the pieces of art I have, I don't know if I want to call it art, it's a picture of the history of law enforcement. So I moved that from the house into the office. So I'm even starting to move some stuff into the office to make it look a little better.
So Nick, we'll just kind of let you talk if there's anything you see that you want to change from what I proposed, or there's any changes that have happened in the meantime that we need to correct.
No, actually, everything looks pretty good. Do I need to do that or no? No. Everything looks pretty good. The only thing that I think we had talked about that I wanted to make sure I get some clarification as to let you guys know, if we can use the EMPG to the fullest and expand the staff to have 3 full-time people, that is the one thing I would like to have. I think it's definitely necessary, especially as we talk about, getting more community involvement and getting involved in more programs so that the office both serves the county as well as serving the city. But it looks like there's a process for that because EMPG is not on our fiscal budget as it used to be. And so I would have to apply in May, and then in June, I would know if we are able to get that grant so that we can do that expansion. And I'm told that there's a process we can go through to amend if there's a salary line item that needs to be amended for that.
So most of the time, if we receive a grant during the year, it goes through the court order process to change the budget. So the response to Nick was if you receive additional funding for additional staff, that would happen through that court order process. One other thing I did want to point out is a change to his salary line this year is that we pulled Tracy's salary out of the commission's budget and put it completely into emergency management so that that budget reflects the true cost of both of those employees. So you will see that change in there that is different. You will see the reduction in 122 salaries because of that movement. So it was not an additional employee, it was just the movement from one department to the other based on her duties and what she's doing. I would say the bulk of her time is spent in emergency management.
Except for the remainder of this year.
Right, of
So
course.
how's that gonna affect our reimbursement from the city that pays half of that? Have we contacted them and?
No, that was always done through the state grant. Half of that came back from the state.
So
MPG.
again, I think that the agreement with the city needs to be updated to reflect the current cost. I think it was a 1989
1989.
agreement that we're still living under.
But the agreement was fine, we haven't adjusted the salaries and
I think
expenses,
that there was
right?
some confusion as far as what the city was being billed for. I think their agreement includes hazmat costs and things like that the EMPG does not. And the calculation of their portion has been calculated wrong because it's half of what is being reimbursed from the feds when really it should be a quarter of what we truly have in that department. So I think it's a discussion with the city to let them know that that has been calculated incorrectly and their number could change.
Okay.
And possibly doing that sooner rather than later to give them a heads up before we start the new budget year.
Yeah, their budget year starts on November, isn't it?
October 1, I think.
October.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, so they're already in their budget?
Yeah,
Yes.
oh, yeah.
Okay.
And basically what we're wanting to do is instead of us covering the difference, they're covering just half of the
True.
MPG grant
Yes.
not covered.
Right. Yes.
But we have other expenses, so.
Yes.
And there are
We might-
expenses that are now not covered by EMPG
So-
that it would be nice to have the city help cover
You
those
get to
expenses.
make friends real
with us.
quick.
Oh, yeah, well.
Need some more money from you guys.
It all depends on how you
Their
approach
fair
them.
part. It really
Yeah,
Yes.
sounds
sounds
their
like you
fair
got it
part.
under
Yeah.
control. There you go. I think you just volunteered to
you
go
got
talk to
that,
them.
Jeff?
Do you
I just wanna make
guys,
sure that-
Don't we just send them a bill? Okay.
do you guys have other questions for Nick or anything you see in his budget that you want to talk about? Nick's one of our people that came in kind of in the middle of the budget process, so he's gonna kind of live within the budget we had and maybe have some other changes next year, but
Especially in the revenue area, kind of the grants and stuff that we receive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go, Nick. No, no offense, but we really don't like to see you guys, so.
I know.
It's, last couple of years have been pretty
Been
rough
rough.
with the tornado and the epidemic,
Yeah, it
and
has.
floods, ice, so. Deserve a easy year once. Doesn't sound like.
That's the only thing I'd like to add, later in the year, if something comes up, a little leniency, since Nick had nothing to do with putting the budget or myself, it's already done. I don't think there's a lot of time that was spent putting in for it, but, and I've explained to Nick in the past years, if something, emergency comes up, come to the commission and ask for that, and they transfer funds around to help out.
And I think due to the age of the vehicles that we are now maintaining, that maintenance cost is kind of a variable cost that, as those age, it's going to grow. So, I think there's some knowledge there of, we may need additional funding for that, vehicle equipment operation, but we'd like to stay within the budget we have if we can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, we did get a little grief at MAC though from the Audrain County commissioners for stealing you, so. I said, nah, 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 nah.
Good.
They didn't give you no money though, did they?
No.
Yeah, see?
Well, I appreciate that. They're good guys.
If you guys don't have anything else, Nick's free to go.
That's it for
Run
me.
fast in the
Yeah.
other direction.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah.
So why don't we,
Debbie is calling Larry to
Yeah,
see if he
let's-
can come.
let's
You wanna
keep
call
moving
Eric
ahead.
Peters as well? We'll move those two forward a little quicker.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Today we have yet collector, treasurer, and capital improvements.
Nick, did you all sign
Yes.
in? Do they need to sign in?
They should be. I don't know that everyone is, but they should be.
Christie and Dawn were the last two who did. Melissa did.
So,
Shall I put her
I
down?
just think just write her down.
Oh, goodness, we got capital improvement at 12:30. How deep will we get into that today?
Well, we kind of touched on it earlier. That one's a little more flexible with where we end up as of the end of the year. You may want to talk about some capital improvements, and if there's anything you guys want to try to do before the end of the year that was on the list from last year, or get started in the process so that we're ready to go as of January. I mean, maybe it's just Jessica working on bidding, but we do have some capital money that we need to
Yeah.
spend.
yeah, we didn't, yeah. it's-
Well, we got some projects that need to be done,
Yeah.
so.
And
Yes.
if we
Yeah.
start getting to HVAC, it's gonna, that money's gonna be gone quickly, so.
Yeah,
It will.
so,
It absolutely will. So, was it last year or a couple of times we've had Greg kind of go through here and say which
so
ones were A,
in-
Bs, and Cs?
Well, so included in the list in the book is everything on Greg's list that was an A.
Okay.
I didn't include Bs or Cs,
Okay.
so this list includes As. I do have a copy of his list if you wanna see Bs and Cs.
Okay. Did you email that to us already? Or did he, maybe?
I think he did.
Okay.
So
I was
hopefully
thinking I
it's in
saw it.
your,
Okay. Well, we can look at it and see if there's some that maybe, for whatever reason, it's a priority to us.
right. And I think, like we've been kind of doing today, there were a few on his list that have kind of maybe fallen off or need to wait, so maybe it's something else is gonna move up the list since those have moved down.
And he is gonna be back, and if we need him early, he said he would come back, because he wants to be here for the capital
Yeah.
discussion.
I don't think I have anything for this year's from Greg, unless I
It's been
filed
a
it.
while.
His list saved out in there.
I looked under capital improvements and,
Look at your budget. Oh, are you?
well, I'm looking at my emails, is what I'm looking
Yeah.
at. Oh, here.
We were behind schedule and we've now,
An hour ahead of schedule.
yeah. Just keeping you on your
Once
toes.
we got the engineers out, it quickly.
So Larry's budget's on page 27.
Okay. What page was that? I'm sorry.
27.
27. Morning, LV.
Good morning, gentlemen. You too, Sam.
Whoa!
Ladies, gentlemen, Sam,
Here I was nice to you.
watch him, he's kind of in a bad
You
mood,
were,
he spilled his
and I
coffee already.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
He spilled his coffee already, so
Yeah.
I'm not in a good mood, because
See,
I
if
had
I
strawberries
pay my
last
taxes.
night for snack instead of ice
Oh.
cream, so. Harry's the one in a good mood today. Well, I don't know. Maybe I spoke too early. Well,
Are they
you
after
lost
me?
us.
Huh, they're
Yes, they're
after
after you.
you. We've called in the next
sheriff was
two,
there
so we
after
can.
you earlier, but
Not to rush you, but let's go. I'm just teasing, LB.
I'm not.
That's because you're, I said, and you too, Sam, because you're on a level above them.
It's getting deep in here now.
Cuss jars are gonna get filled again.
My budget is fairly consistent year after year. You know, if I was to ask for anything, I would ask that you go with my salary number instead of Kristen's. I am willing to, let's see here, one of these I wanted to point out. I am willing to accept her dollar difference in my health and dental and life that she has from what my department requested.
The dollar.
The dollar.
The dollar.
Oh, my goodness.
Not to say that Kristen nitpicks, but
Rounding up, down.
but
I'll make a note of this, Larry is okay.
the only things that really concern me have to do with postage, printing and binding. Hopefully that will be okay, but we've seen significant increases in all of that in the past year. Looks like postage is going to continue to go up, and paper costs have gone up significantly, as well as they're also adding charges for shipping now on paper costs. So, but other than that, again, my collector's office is supposed to run off of collector's commission. What it brings in, we'll bring in $1 million, and our budget is a little over $400,000. So I think we do quite well in that area. Gives the county a lot of extra money to spend on other areas more needed than the collector's office. So I appreciate everything you all do for my office and my staff, and look forward to working with you again next year.
You guys have any
I don't
questions for
have
Larry?
any questions.
Let's go to just to the top line. What am I not seeing or understanding of the reduction in taxes,
So projection this year is 1,364.
right?
Projection for next year is 1,2.
Because of the,
Because of the change in the rollback, so the decrease in our tax levy went down, so therefore.
so this is where it hits in this
budget,
in
yes.
this budget.
Yes.
Okay.
But you will also look at the transfer in line in his budget. That's the 60% of the sales tax that's coming in from EMS, so you're seeing that number grow as well.
Okay.
So you're seeing that offset there.
And one of these days, we're going to see that stops, that
So we
one.
have reached out to Department of Revenue to try to figure out if we would ever get to the point where we have to roll our levy back to 0 or beyond 0, what that looks like. I can't roll back into the negative. I can't start paying people. So that question has been posed. We have not gotten a good answer.
Other than to ask our attorney.
Yes.
That was the answer we got, so.
At the pace we're going, that's what, 2 or 3 years away?
Assuming sales tax stays.
Yeah, I think last year was an abnormal year of sales tax with an 8% growth is I think where we ended up. No one would have projected in a pandemic year that we would have seen an 8% growth in sales tax. I don't know that it will consistently grow like that. This year, I think I'm projecting maybe a 2% by the time we get to the end of the year.
And the offset is property taxes, so if the property taxes actually get reassessed, then that will change that picture too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If?
When?
That will change that picture though.
The assessor has approached me, or Jackie has, about putting notices in next year's tax bills about the 2023 reassessment. So evidently they are planning on doing something in 2023, which is a reassessment year.
So they're contemplating telling people in 2022 that you'll be reassessed in 2023?
Correct.
It's never been done before. It's not required by statute.
To send a note, well, it's what's required by statute is that they have to send out, once they do the reassessment, they have
Correct.
to send out notices to anybody having an increase.
Yeah, but not a 1 year ahead kind of thing, which is that what's being
Well, it's not a year ahead, because the tax bills would go out in November of 2022, and they start their assessment in January of 2023.
Okay, and when's this, maybe I should save these questions for the assessor. But, or is he planning to send something in calendar 2022 that says you might be reassessed in 2023?
That's my understanding of the notice I saw.
Okay.
He asked or Jackie asked if we would allow that to be included with the tax bill mailing.
All right.
But we've had other reassessment years, just.
Well,
not a
every
whole lot
odd
of
number.
Every
other-
odd numbered year is a
But not a whole lot of
reassessment year.
reassessments or changes per
Yeah.
se. So, I mean.
Maybe I should rewind everything I said.
No,
I didn't hear that, Judge.
I'm not trying to put the spotlight on the collector at all. I was just curious as to why an assessor would suggest to the populace a year from when I actually reassess, I'm going to tell you a year ahead of time. The statute says, excuse me,
I have some cough drops.
the statute says reassess in odd-numbered years. It doesn't say in even-numbered years, tell the people you're going to reassess in an odd-number year.
I see that as a courtesy notice,
That he expects it to increase.
so people are aware that people will be looking at their properties for reassessment.
Okay. I'm more concerned about following the statute than I am about being courteous.
I think
I
tomorrow
mean, you
morning-
take an oath to follow the statute. You don't take an oath to be courteous. But I'm not picking a fight with you, Larry.
Run now. Move in the other direction, Larry.
Are you all done with me?
I was just enjoying the moment of silence.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thanks, Larry. I think. Appreciate you working with the auditor on that dollar difference.
How hot is it? It's a little warmer than I thought it'd be.
Eric, you sure you want to?
Morning, Eric. Hey,
I'm
Brian.
going to be both courteous and
Mark.
follow the statutes.
Treasurer is on page 30.
Wait, my watch told me I'm supposed to stand. Okay.
Did it say you did it?
I'm like-
Mine tells me you did it.
No, well, he stood once today, I think, twice.
Okay, gentlemen.
Remember to breathe.
Everything is in order as it was last year. Auditor's done a good job of reflecting our needs, and there's a few changes. One is a capital request, another is additional monies to our salary line, and then a change in our publication. So we'll start actually with the salary line. My trustee and loyal deputy will be departing about March of next year. I tried to get him to stay another 4 years to qualify for another pension program, but he's so flush after working with the state and getting one pension program here, he's going to go golfing, I guess, and traveling. But that,
enjoy our first grandbaby. So,
All right.
so that brings up the a scenario of needing to hire and train. And so we've reached the 2-week idea of 2 weeks of training will probably be adequate for his successor. That's about $1,800 that needs to be added to the salary line.
Plus whatever my annual leave payout would be.
We don't normally budget for payouts. They're unexpected, and usually we true up closer to the end of the year, so you will see that. If we know in advance, sometimes we will, like with Road and Bridge, with multiple people, we knew that was going to be significant and budgeted that. But normally, that's an unexpected occurrence in most circumstances.
I got a question, if that's okay. Is our salary budget, it's pretty much like spot on since there's just 2 of us, right? You don't budget any extra money at all usually in this office. Like some bigger offices, I'm sure you gotta.
We
make
budget
some
by
leeway.
position, so,
okay.
yeah, that's exactly how it's budgeted, is by position, so.
So we'd add, we would request an additional $1,800 be added to the salary line for training purposes for his successor.
That's like 2 weeks pay.
Right. Then, if you look down at, let's just skip down to publications. I'm requesting, I'd originally requested, you all already pay for subscription to the Wall Street Journal. And I want to add the Financial Times to my subscription, if I could do that. That's $300 for a whole year of print and digital subscription. If there's any question of its worth, I know that you all receive a monthly county investments update from me. And usually what I try to do is a small or larger paragraph. I try to give you all a snapshot of where treasuries stand and where our portfolio and prospective decisions regarding that portfolio stand at the time of that report that I email you all. I sit at my computer and write that without looking at anything. And the only reason I can do that is because I keep up with this stuff constantly, and I think the additional subscription to the Financial Times will simply help me add more substance and more accuracy to my understanding of our investment opportunities. So that's why I'm requesting that. I originally had it in there, I think at $975. The auditor has it at $700. I'd request that be changed to $1,000. I have their latest subscription information, and it's
I don't pay $675 a year for the Wall Street Journal.
$675. What?
Well, you're taking 300. You had $975, and you said the one is $300, which.
We're currently paying $57.58 a month.
And I would pay $74.75 every 3 months for Financial Times, which is a broader scope and in depth more on in some ways and broader in some ways. It's a great complement to reading the Wall Street Journal daily is reading the Financial Times. Because the Financial Times, as you all may, it's a British publication, so it's going to give, which focuses on the U.S. and European, as well as worldwide financial information. I think it would help me. That's all I'm asking for, is something that I think can help me do my job better as a county treasurer. The last change is a capital request. I have a credenza from the 1960s, a desk that I bang my knee on all the time, and the drawers don't open all the way. I think last year I was going to make a request, let's see, and then the timing of your office furniture purchased bumped me out of being able to get. Yeah, remember it was a check office, and you had just purchased.
I don't think it was me, but
somebody.
Department, yes.
Okay, sorry. So, yeah, that's right. You don't have new furniture recently in your office. But you had told me somebody else had already purchased something, and then there's a certain number of months that have
Right.
to pass by. And what's the threshold now? Is it
12,000.
So it raised.
It went from 6,000 to 12,000.
Okay, so it was just under 6,000, so I was going to purchase a new desk, basically replace what I have with stuff that works better, and a shelving in place of the credenza, something that's simply more useful for the office to use. And so that was in the $6,000 would be tops. I had that on my desk, I forgot to bring it. But I want to put in a $6,000 request. Even though the amount now has gone higher, I'm not going to reach for a higher dollar figure for furniture in my office. I'll stick with the $6,000 estimate. I think it was about $5,800 that Check Office came out and measured and see what I wanted, and I went with just the basics, and so I would like to add a $6,000 capital request for my office. There's also a set of blinds that is askew. One side is broken, the other side will break probably before my term ends, so I have no idea what blinds cost. They're wood blinds, they're white wood blinds, and that needs to be fixed or replaced. I've asked our maintenance fellows to come, and they've looked at it and they weren't able to fix it, so I think the conclusion was that they need to be replaced. So my guess would be it'd be like a $250 to $400 purchase tops. So something
Eric,
that.
I also
Go
had
ahead.
on here chairs.
I'm sorry, that's part of the two, what do they call
Part
them?
of the
Two
6,000?
Part of the 6,000,
Okay.
right.
I originally had, I think, 6,800 for the two. I had 5,472 for the office furniture and $1,400 for the chairs. I think is what you
Right,
originally
I wanted to,
submitted.
right, but that was before I realized the cutoff was 6,000. So they squeezed it down to 58, and it still included two chairs.
Okay.
They probably just didn't have a upholstery with them.
Do you guys have questions for Eric?
We need to just look at that Wall Street Journal thing, because it's, I mean, online it's showing us like $39 plus tax per month.
Introductory offer?
No, it's $19.50 plus tax per month for your first 12 months, and then $38.99 plus tax per month afterwards, and see maybe if we need to try to adjust that, and you know,
I
if
can
you
do
want to
that.
get the Financial Times, that would almost
Cover the difference.
Okay,
So it's-
so I'll find out if I can get it. What is it showing on, you're looking at the Wall Street Journal's website?
Let me go back to this.
Because you can find introductory offers, and those are not the same thing, of course, after you've had a month or 3 months worth
Right.
of, yeah.
Yeah, it was two different things, but it was,
Why is there tax on it?
Tax on the Wall Street Journal?
Yeah. Aren't we tax exempt?
We are.
okay, so.
Okay.
Make sure we're not getting charged tax too then.
Yes.
I just.
You pay the bill.
It comes on the credit card.
I know, so.
I Googled it, Eric, and it was just, I think it's subscriptions, something WSJ.
Okay, so remove the tax, try to get some of our tax money back if I can.
Hell, there's some in there
And
that
then
say,
see-
how do you get it for free? You just have to get some kind of, thing to attach to your
Probably does.
Google Chrome, and it unlocks the read button or something, so. But I don't know if that's the same or if that's everything.
I don't know.
You might not get the free ads. But that might be something to look at too, you don't even. I still like having the paper in my hands though sometimes, so.
There's no attachment for it. It's a reoccurring charge.
Right.
Some mornings you just wanna sit back and have that physical paper.
Especially if you're older.
Oh, thanks, Eric.
I'm including myself. Anything else? Okay.
All righty.
Thank you all.
Congratulations,
Appreciate
Mark.
it.
When are you leaving? March, April?
Late spring, about when the weather's good.
About when the weather's good for golf. I don't blame you.
Or my birthday's in March, that might be good.
There you go. All righty. Well, you gotta find your replacement before you can go, Michael.
I think Debbie has Greg coming back, so we may give him a minute before we talk about capital improvements.
These are your guys' that you're supposed to take. from
Greg,
us.
Oh, yeah.
Greg just emailed that to us too, the
He's
paper.
got the one for Russell. Oh, yeah.
So we've got that.
Is that tonight? No, that's.
No, it's, they changed it down here. It's
I
the
don't,
city.
I have an old one.
And that
Did he
one says
change
Russell.
something on it?
Yeah.
He just emailed it 10 minutes ago or 20
Will you
minutes ago.
Send it to me, he did send it to me,
Okay,
and I'll pull it up on the screen.
Can I get a copy of that?
sure.
Send it to Debbie as well, so she can print it.
There you go. Sent me two of them. One's cat projects and one's,
I think one is his equipment list, which he probably can wait and talk about during his budget hearing tomorrow.
I'll send them both
Do
to
we
you
even know
in
when
case
he's
you
gonna
don't.
get that enclosed trailer? I thought it was supposed to be October, but.
I got one, I'll rent you.
Yeah, so that first list, Jeff, is his equipment list that he's requesting, so
Okay.
I need the other one.
I just sent you the second one too, so hopefully it's coming in. Okay, yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna play with this a little to try to get this to be a little more user-friendly.
So we got Greg coming in.
Yeah.
He wanted to be here for the capital one, just to talk about his list of items,
Yeah, he's actually on vacation.
so he's on his way back.
He's out running around anyway. I think he's already bored.
Just a quick, we have total square footage for each building, just because in the past we've kind of asked what that is. And then he has them listed priority A through D, so A being a top priority and down the list. So, like I said, in my list of capital requests is only the A requests from him, because this would be a huge sheet if I included the Bs and Cs. And there are some items on the list that obviously we have not went out to bid on, and we really don't have a good estimate as far as price. You can see like plumbing replacement, HVAC replacement, the clock bell over in the courthouse. Some of those items are kind of up in the air as to the actual cost of those things. I think it more has to do with what exactly we want to do and what we want to replace them with. So you will see question marks on my list of capital requests, and I think a blank cost estimate on Greg's list if we're not exactly sure what that cost is.
Do you want a hard copy, Jeff?
I don't care, yeah, I'll just put it in here then. I have it in my book.
My book.
One thing to think about, when you're looking at sales tax, obviously it's for capital improvements. General fund this year does have 5 million in capital improvements as well. We started out with $1.5 million 2 years ago. COVID hit and we kind of held on that. By not spending that, we've kind of increased that reserve in general fund. So in 2021, it was 3 million. We again did not spend any of that in 2021, so it is now grown to 5 million.
It's just rolling up as we go.
Yes, it is. And like we talked about with Road and Bridge, we've kind of taken the approach that the savings that we see in a current year budget, we are trying to spend on one-time expenditures, not ongoing expenditures. So we're trying to do some of those capital items that we have on the list. I think If you total, you're seeing 2.2 on the list here, that's just A priorities. If you take Greg's list, and like I said, some of those are missing, it's a fairly large list. I mean, electrical replacement in the courthouse is a huge cost. We also have the old jail that's not really on the list. We have 209 Adams, which we obviously are going to do some small improvements to this year, but
It's on page 2.
what that looks like going forward. So we have some buildings that we need to decide what it is we want to do with, and if we want to make some significant improvements too.
At some point, we do have to quit kicking the can down the road. We have that money invested, but the investment is not going to keep up with the escalating costs. And so we are derelict in not addressing this sooner rather than later.
And I think of it more as we have an elephant to eat, and we need to start eating it one bite at a time.
It's fair.
And to have a plan in place of what that looks like, where the end goal is for you, is a justice building, what the end goal is, how we divide it up.
What your priorities are,
Yes.
and then also we want to make sure that we do them in the right order.
Yes.
If
Not
you're
to waste money.
right, if you're talking about HVAC in this building and it needs to be upgraded, we want to make sure that we're not going to redo offices in the building after we do HVAC. We want to make sure we do them in the right steps so that we use the money to the best of our ability, so that we're not having to redo things that we already did. So if we're gonna move offices around, let's move the offices and then do the HVAC so we have a system that works well with the setup that it's going to be. So it's what are those priorities, and then what order do we need to do them in to make them the best use of our dollars.
What is our total cost gonna be on 209 and Carnegie?
Right now, we're sitting at 197,000. I did talk to you two commissioners about spray foam. I've got two companies going to come in and give me a price this week to spray foam those walls that we took all the insulation, everything out of, so we have at least a little bit. Go back to maybe an R14 on the walls, just to put something on them. Otherwise, we're going to be running the furnace nonstop and the AC nonstop to try to keep the building either warm or cool in the wintertime or summertime. Some of the projects that are going on that I'm sure you're aware of, the lighting that was taken out down at Pringer on the monument is fixed. Those light fixtures have been bought and paid for already. Wednesday morning, we had another, I'm waiting to hear back from MUV what it was. They were having power fluctuations down there again. Lights were flashing on and off. It took the digital controller out of the refrigerator, which we got it fixed, but it also took two compressors out on the other side. I don't know what's causing it. I can't get any answers from anybody. But the lights were flashing. They said they were flashing on and off for 20 minutes the other morning. Of course, our generator kicked in and out several times down there, because once it sees power back, it goes into shutdown mode, and then it flashes again and it brings the power back on. That's hard on any kind of electrical equipment, period. Lighting project I got with Gray Bar Monday. Went through what Chris had proposed to you guys. The light fixtures on those poles, they had put 150 watts. To get the same lighting that we have now, they have to go to 250, because those are 40-foot poles to get a brighter area. So I'm hoping to have the price for just what the electrical fixtures will be maybe Friday or Monday. Working with the sheriff on getting his new washer and dryer put in. Went through with the electrician and plumber. the other day. They're getting started this week to get that in so we can get the new washer and dryer put in. Went through with the garage door guys, did the final on, final build on the garage doors, electrical, everything. That's signed off, ready to go. Doors will hopefully be here at the end of March, 1st of April to get started. What other project do we got going on right now? Fencing is going back up as we speak. They're probably 3/4 of the way done. They started on that Friday. They should hopefully be done either today or tomorrow on the fence down at Prayer to be put back up in place. Other than that, that's about all the projects I got going on right now. I do agree with what Kristen and Debbie said. We've got to figure out what we're gonna do with this building, whether it's gonna stay like it is. If it's gonna stay like it is for the next 5 to 10 years, then we need to pull the trigger on looking at the HVAC. If it's not, we're gonna be moving judicial offices into here. I'm just speaking out loud because I don't know what your all's plans are. Then we need to wait and figure out after we get the layout of this building. I know EMS is building looking at it, building a new building. I'd like to look at the mechanicals on it. I'd like to try to stay with the same mechanicals we're using in the rest of the buildings. That way, if we lose a boiler, we have spare parts for that boiler. Same way with the light fixtures, so I'd like to stay with a certain 2x2 or 2x4 drop-in LED panel that we're currently purchasing for all the rest of our buildings. It makes it easier on my staff to, if a fixture goes out, we've got one and we don't have to wait on parts or pieces to come in. Which brings up another subject. Parts and pieces for our equipment are getting harder and harder to get. So it's gonna be eventually, we're gonna have to start changing stuff out.
That's a good reason to put newer stuff in them places though, instead of going to this antiquated stuff we got like this.
Yeah, that's why we're not putting
So-
this stuff in anymore.
I'd just say if they got new stuff in new buildings, you might as well change it out while go to something new.
Right. My cost on everything from filters to plumbing parts to electrical parts have jumped anywhere from 30 to 60%. Just to give you a heads up for when we go through budget tomorrow. Some of those numbers that I put in August, we're gonna have to change. I'm sure you're seeing my usage on products since we're back to full staff everywhere. Usage for cleaning the buildings has gone up. The courthouse, I think, is happy. I am losing a person next year, which we'll need to replace. And then another person I'd like to have just as a floater to do the courthouse in here. We'll bring that up tomorrow. I don't know what other projects you want. I know Carnegie's, I've been talking with Patrick quite a bit. So's Eric. I think Patrick's wanting to get with you before we put it out for bid because there's gonna be some changes we're gonna have to make on that bid for January. There's gonna be a little more work than what we thought. Probably gonna have to replace that retaining wall for the pit because it's leaning out and cracked pretty bad. So that's gonna add additional cost.
What's the status on the old jail? How much longer can it stand without?
That, yeah, I was getting to that. The old jail, we put 20 gallons of tar on that roof just to try to cover up some of the holes in that roof. Trying to find some leaks because every time we get a hard rain, it's like a monsoon in there. Windows are all rotted out now. You can take a screwdriver and stick a hole right through the windows because they're all wooden case windows. You are starting to see more foundation cracking where the floor is lifting up and down. It's my recommendation before long is we're gonna either have to tear it down or it's gonna come down.
maybe several years ago, maybe not quite that long ago, this room was occupied by all the office holders, and everyone was asked what they saw as their needs, and there was some discussion, and then there was there's a floor plan for a removal of the old sheriff's
Correct.
house
Correct.
/ jail.
Correct.
Those plans are circulated around in different
I think
places.
Jeff still has a copy back there behind him. I think Sam had a copy in his office. I thought you had a copy in your office.
I think there was one left in the office that I
We-
occupy.
And if I remember right, I think that was, just to do that was around $5 to $6 million. Does that sound
Depending on
right?
how many floors.
Depending
Well,
on the floor.
before you talk about a bill, what was the takedown
Yeah.
or demo
The
piece
demo
of
was
that?
That was, they were gonna have to do it piece by piece because they were gonna try to keep the Sally Port going at the time. But, I don't remember, that's been too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they were gonna try to reuse some of the rock and stuff and everything in it, so we didn't get beat up so bad by the.
Well, we can
Historical
save some of the
Society.
rock. I mean, that's
So-
what they did with the old St. Mary's, so.
Right.
But I mean, when everybody says it's a historic building, it was built in 1934, it's a WPA project. And the most notorious inmate we ever had was Johnny Paycheck, which Mark Schreiber arrested in 1978. So we can put a plaque there and say, if we want to, but my fear is that it is going to just come down, and even if we take it down and
Well, one thing that I think I've talked to all three of you about is the plans are great, but if we were to extend the building all the way from where it sits now, that footprint, all the way back to this concrete wall, we would double the facility for the courts and what they would need for their bigger courtroom they've asked for. I know we put a Band-Aid on putting a small courtroom upstairs. I'm assuming it's working out great. I haven't heard anything about that.
It's probably unfair to call it a courtroom. It should be called a hearing room, probably.
Yeah.
But yes, Judge Green is making it work. But then again, he does move to some other larger rooms when it's necessary.
Right. I agree. As far as countywide goes, we've outgrown our buildings tremendously. I don't think you can get another person really in any of our buildings if you don't put them on top of somebody. I know, and we're gonna need more people before long. Court cases are picking up. I know Kristen added another person up in her office, and they're tight up there now. We're moving Justin's crew, we're splitting them in Carnegie's on 2 floors to make arrangements for their 5 new lawyers. I'm not sure what the public defender upstairs, or prosecuting attorney upstairs, I'm sorry, how much more space he's gonna need over the years. Courts, they're adding more people over there. They're tight, we're tight everywhere. We got people on top of people over there. We're just gonna have to sit down and figure out what we need to do to alleviate some of our elephant problem we have. Does that mean we bite the bullet, tear down the old jail, and build a larger building to accommodate the courts? And then figure out what we need to do for here?
I think so, that's the bigger question. If you guys would maybe get together and set your priorities, maybe different, what you're thinking is the priority. If you guys could, somehow set your 3 priorities, and see where we are, see where you want to go, what you want to do first, because this list right here is probably over 20 million, and we get about $1 million a year in sales tax. revenue, but we do have about 2.7 more that we've saved, plus that 5 million. So I think it's a good idea just to see where you three are at, where you want to invest your money first, because there's no end to what projects we have here. Sure, we have to keep up with the ones we have, but we do have to figure out how to get there from here.
That's a standalone meeting in itself.
Yeah, the biggest will be whenever we look at the courthouse and replumb it and do all that other, but that might, if we add on an addition at that time, I don't know, but.
If we did the addition, it might be cheaper to do both projects at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's just, it's just a question of feasibility study, what we need to do for long-term, and go from there.
My idea, if we're gonna add on, is we do kind of like what Blair Oaks did, and you build a clean, functional, moderately priced building, what we can afford, not recessed lighting and all this other stuff.
Yeah, just put this fixture in, no bazillion walnut, just sheetrock, maybe some chair rails. I mean, keep it nice, looking respectable, but not go overboard with oak everywhere, and something like this doesn't look bad. Just keep it reasonable. If you start adding oak and walnut.
Brazilian.
You start adding these high dollar light fixtures that were on that original plan, it's way too much. You put these I think some of those light fixtures were $1,800, $1,900. My 2x2s that I'm buying right now are $62.
So I think the state's getting some money, and it would help them socially distance if we had some bigger courtrooms and stuff like that. So, it'd behoove them to throw some money, and I'm being all serious about it, because that's most things that came out of Greg's mouth is state stuff, public defender and the courts. So, we can accommodate our people. We've got room over there at the Adams Street building. If we had to move some people over there, we could. No.
Well, talking with some of the commissioners at the MAC conference, I talked to one, they're gonna use some of the ARPA money, for courthouse, and I'm like, but we need to be very careful on how we use that, but.
I agree. We don't want to get our hands slapped and say we took $10 million from ARPA and we're not allowed to do that.
If you're using it for the objectives that they have laid out there, that you're doing it to keep the court open, to help them social distance.
I agree.
You can argue it all day long. There's, the stuff on the bottom of that list is hard to argue.
Well, we're getting all this, mold issues that are coming up, and I'm sure the old HVAC system over there is.
That system was put in 1971.
Yeah, so but I.
The chiller was put in 99, and the two boilers were put in 2000. And you're gonna have to look at replacing those boilers before long, because the
I wasn't talking about any of that for the ARPA money. That's
No,
if
I'm
you're
not.
gonna make it, if you're gonna expand or remodel or stuff. Because that's one of the issues, is having a courtroom large enough to handle their jury. Selection was one of the biggest things in some of the jury trials, so.
Yeah, you're not spacing.
It's just something I'm throwing out there, that
You're
if
not spacing people out.
they want more room over there, then send some money our way. We can help do it. But that's not one of my top priorities.
I think you need to realize that there's spacing issues everywhere.
Yeah.
Even Prager, they're out of space. Thank God we bought the health building when we did. They've got still plenty of room out there. The EMS building that we've got now / EMA, that building's getting filled up.
I think you also need to keep in your mind the juvenile building, as Toby alluded to, may need some significant renovations to handle detention, and if we do changes to that building, we are no longer grandfathered in. So we have to comply with all the regulations if we do changes to that building. So that's something to keep on your radar. That may be something that comes sooner rather than later.
She's mentioned that, and it's either that or we're gonna be paying people to take our juvenile. So, we can, I mean, actually turn that around too, to where we are taking other people's, so, kinda like the jail here. I think that's a standalone conversation. We'll be able to.
Yeah,
We better sit around about 3 hours and, because we'll be able to kick this around.
Well, I think, you know, we're gonna have the steps at the Carnegie. I would like to get a price maybe on taking down the old jail, even if we just take it down. I don't know if it'd be better to build a new Sally Port after it's down than try to take it down, build, and leave it.
If we build it, or if we tear it down, we need to figure out what we're gonna put back. Because if we put a Sally Port, just a Sally Port back, that changes what footers you have to have.
Okay.
Now, if we're gonna put a 4-story building back up, that changes what size footers we have to have again. So, you know, and it goes back to
You gotta have different
what you-
footings and pylons and stuff in there.
Yes.
Yeah, but I would
Master plan.
I would put the bigger footings just to be prepared for it, so we don't have to take it down again.
Right.
That jail bothers me.
One of the questions I just thought about it was when the new elevator shaft was built up, we're not sure how that shaft is pinned to the old jail either. So we're gonna have to watch that. I know that was one of the construction concerns.
That's when we put in a new elevator.
I'm not sure. I wasn't here.
I can get that.
So I don't know if we have any drawings on how that was done anywhere. I have not seen
I
it.
think so, because that was all done through a grant, so I would think we have all that.
Yes.
What's the definition of a new elevator? When was the new elevator installed?
That was, we built that whole.
I
house.
understand, but, okay,
2007
what's,
or 8.
say that again?
2007 or 8.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that recent? It's that recent?
Yeah, I was thinking 7.
It was after I was here and I started in 2005.
And we didn't take into consideration the EMS cots or?
The new elevator can handle a cot too, at an angle. The old one absolutely cannot.
No. And that's the other.
It was ADA compliant at the time.
like vertical?
The new one.
It's tight.
I mean, but then again, cots have
Cots
probably
are
changed.
bigger
over
too,
the
though.
year.
Yeah.
They probably changed. over
Yeah,
the
they
year.
I mean, used to, you had to
You didn't have all that.
get you a
Electric.
board and,
Yeah, you didn't, right.
okay,
But
let's do
that's
that as
why
a
we have
separate,
grant.
I mean, we just need to have that meeting too, and.
So I think that's something that needs to keep moving though. I don't think we can, like Harry said, keep kicking it down the road. I think you're gonna have to pick a project that you all agree on and move forward with something. So whether you want that in the next week or two, or you want it the first week or two of January, I think you need to keep moving forward, and it's going to take Jessica a while to get bidding and things done for projects of that size, so.
I've got my top priority. I'm not gonna announce it
I
this
think that's
moment,
what you guys need to
but
do.
Yeah,
I
so-
do
Think
have.
about that.
If you guys could do like a list of your top 3 priorities, and then we'll see where those lists mesh with each other and move from there.
Okay.
Because I don't think, as big as some of these are, we can't just bid it out and see what we come back
No.
with. We're having a hard enough time getting vendors to bid now, because either there's so much work out there, or there's not enough workers. We are having a hard time getting people to bid, so I would hate
And the
to.
product, you know, trying to get
Yeah.
product in is hard to do. I'm still waiting on a board that I ordered back in June.
Where's the trailer?
Trailer's still not here. We ordered that in March. So,
That was supposed to be here in October, right?
yep.
So just a quick recap, on the courthouse side of sales tax, you'll also see those 2 departments like we talked about with Road and Bridge. So you will see the 15% of the current sales tax. Since we still have money in there to spend, you will see Department 804. You will see Department 806 as well for the new sales tax cycle that starts in January. So you'll see those 2 separate ones. Again, it kind of depends on the current projects that we have open and where they end up during the year. At the end of the year, what's still open will be carried forward. That will decide what that remaining dollar amount is that you have for new projects. We, closer to the end of the year, we'll true that up. Cause, I mean, 209 Adams and the Carnegie Building,
That'd be January or February.
right, so that whole contract will get carried forward as encumbered and will stay there. So any contracts that are currently signed will obviously get carried forward and be set aside for those contracts that are already signed. So we will talk about this one again. We, again, don't usually pick particular projects. We set aside a certain dollar amount we want to spend on capital improvements, but we want you all to be thinking about what those projects are. And the departments will be ready after the budget gets approved to come back and ask for those items that they've requested as well. And if you wanna go over your equipment list tomorrow when you do your regular budget.
If you wanna come in a little early, because it looks like we kind of rescheduled Ralph for John, because couldn't make it, so we really don't need an hour for Ralph in the morning.
That's
So
fine.
If you wanna come early, that'd be great.
That's fine.
We do have some commission ones we can throw in there too.
Yeah.
I've got spray foam now, I gotta meet in the morning, so.
Okay. If you can.
So if you guys have other stuff you wanna talk about today, we can. If not, we will,
And we begin tomorrow at,
8:30.
it looks like 8:30. I think we kind of left that half an hour before if you had something that came up on the agenda, but I don't think there's anything on the agenda for 8 o'clock tomorrow, so
If we hear from
8:30.
BKD, we can bring that up under old business.
I haven't got an email from them, I can call them again, or,
Did you put it on the agenda for tomorrow?
no, I did not.
I was gonna say it would've had to be after 9, I think, by the time we talked about it.
For what we're paying them, they should be answering our calls.
Well, I
I
did get a
think-
return email that she was on
Vacation.
vacation for the holiday.
Then somebody else should be taking care of it. It's just a question. It's not specific to us either. I don't know, I don't wanna keep.
the detail for tomorrow, can you recite the detail?
Of who's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Public administrator, information systems, maintenance, auditor,
Oh, God.
circuit clerk, assessor, recorder of deeds, and then we have set aside commission, which is kind of all of the various departments and funds that fall under you guys. We didn't list them all out, but there are multiple funds and things that you guys oversee that we'll just briefly talk about.
Okay.
And there will be a little bit of movement, tomorrow. We had to reschedule the sheriff. He was set to be our 8:30 and we had an hour. Him and Ralph had to switch due to some timing issues on their end. So we probably will move a little quicker through the schedule tomorrow than what's on the list at the moment.
So is John tomorrow? or
No,
is
he is
Thursday?
he is on Thursday.
Okay.
He originally was tomorrow at 8:30.
Just making sure.
We can do our commission stuff from 12:30 when
Yeah, so we
Ralph
can.
gets done or wherever.
Yeah, so we can fill in as we go because, again, that's why we just set aside the certain amount of time for budget hearings because we move a little quicker than expected or a little slower, so.
I'll try not to take an hour and a half on my budget.
Okay, and as of now, Thursday, sheriff, what else is on Thursday?
So Thursday we have court security, county clerk, EMS, sheriff, court services, child support, prosecuting attorney, and the health insurance fund.
Okay.
Fun.
Do you wanna, I'll get her in here to stop.
You wanna make a motion?
Motion to adjourn and stand in recess until 4:30.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Harry, will you make sure that you do accounts payable? We have a few that need to go today.
Take my,
Yeah, we did. I did them.
start all over.
What
anymore? Did I step out of
You
the
were,
office?
you were still talking to Greg.
Oh, thank you.
So do these new speakers work for when we're recording the meetings, or just when we're doing the, WebEx and stuff like that?
That would be a Brian question. I think it's during a meeting that it's better.
Are we done?
We're done.
For the day?
We're
Oh,
done.
do you know what these new speakers we put in are just for like when we're doing WebEx, or does that help?
There's two that you.
I was told I can't use the new stuff with this, I have to stay with this.